And we're gonna go for another rock and roll freestyle rock and roll session for the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses. Turn your heads left and right when you cross the street, even if it's in one way. From my neighborhood to the mountain, my second home. I'm starting to miss my second home. The mountain, Mount Royal, a few kilometers in these steel toe boots auctioning. Everything that I'm wearing, including the backpack, $1 million each item, the underwear, the socks. Those jeans. They're not really jeans, but whatever the case may be. So the socks as well. So to give 50% half to my anonymous friend. I'm financially struggling, stressed, but rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, you know. Yeah, gonna rock and roll. See if the rain starts. We're gonna have to put that raincoat on, and here we're gonna drop some. I forgot to put it in my garbage, so no turning back now, you know. That's how we're gonna go do it, and we're gonna drop our garbage out, and that's how we're gonna go doing, and go hoping for some sun, peace over sun with that, and that's what we gotta go get with that, and we're gonna turn our heads left and right, and that's what we're gonna do, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna get it on the go, and gonna go get it on the gas with that, and be careful because you cross the street safely. You gotta cross the street safely, you know. So that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we're gonna get doing, you know. Crossing the street safely is a must, and it's a prudence, and that's what we gotta get doing on the XYZ, and for myself and for the others, you know, because I'm an individual citizen, part of the collective, and I gotta cross the street prudently. Gonna wait for the car, and we gotta cross that street prudently with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And still waiting a bit, gotta be patient, you know. Sometimes we just gotta be patient and then cross the street safely, and that's what it is with that. Cross safely and on it. We're gonna go on that onyx, vertical, horizontal, XYZ axis, I meant, you know, because I see it in mathematical. I calculate the volume, you know, and the volume of the car, trying to calculate the speed and the volume and whatever the case may be. The speed, the volume, you know, try to kind of mathematical a little bit, you know, not to go into overly detail, but for example, to give an example concrete of what I'm discussing is I kind of try to calculate, although my vision is not perfect, I'm blurred, I was prescribed some glasses, but I try to calculate, approximate the speed of the car, and you know, the size of the car and the velocity, because if it's a bigger car, smaller car, you know, it has a bigger impact, and of course it depends, of course, what metal and alloys of the metal is made of, but wow, isn't that beautiful? Beautiful. So basically I'm trying to calculate kind of my steps in a mathematical, like kind of on the XY axis, and know that I'm going north, and the cars are going, if they're going that way, they're going east. If they're going that way is west. So east, west. So that's why I turn your heads left and right. And of course I try to calculate my steps, how fast I can go if I speed it up. So I made a calculation about approximation of the distance of the car. So I make an approximation of the distance of the car and my position and my size and how many steps I know that it takes me to cross the street. So these are more, this is an Aspie thing, you know, being an Asperger's, like this is a more Aspie-esque, I guess. So basically what I'm calculating is the risk, just to make it in a more simple terminology type of terms. I'm calculating the risk to cross the street, knowing that the car's velocity and speed. So it's a mathematical calculations, right? So the car speed and distance between that car and that car. So I can approximate that is going 20 miles, kilometers an hour, 15 miles, kilometers an hour, or less or more, right? Depending on how my eyes and visibility and how my brain functions and calculates, and how the distance for me to cross, which is, I would say, you know, between, I don't have a precise measurement, but the distance is about, you know, 15 to 25 yards, you know, 15 to 25 yards to cross it. So those steps for me to cross it, that is what it is with that. And those steps, see, like that person there, if I see him, of course, to get it on the calculation of how that car might potentially impact his crossing, but I see blurred. So I need, of course, a little bit of that rock and roll, and a little bit of that rock and roll on the side. So basically taking those variables into consideration, the mathematical and my steps, if I step it on the press, and if I step on the press, meaning if I press it, I'm more pressing on the pedal, my pedal, which are these steel toe boots, and if I'm accelerating, if I'm at a certain speed, 5 kilometers, 5 miles, 5 kilometers an hour, and whatever the case may be, 5 or 10 kilometers an hour, that's what it is with that, and that's where we're gonna go crossing, see? So the distance, 15, 25 yards, meters, parallel to the other distance, or whatever the case may be. That's how we gotta get doing with that. And so we're gonna get on that go, you know? So yeah. So mathematically, there's a precise answer, right? Depending on the cars, which car of course approaches, or whatever the case may be. Fridge is empty, I wish I could fill it up. Maybe one day, you know, if I get money, I'm gonna fill the whole thing up, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that. And so we're gonna get doing on the go, you know, so that's what it is. That's how we're gonna get doing, and we're gonna be crossing on that street and getting on the zigzag a little bit to go to the mountain, my second home, and here we are, you know. Yeah, so basically the calculations vary. Of course, if this variable here mathematically, that means that crossing the street here, but this is one way, so you have several variables, you know. That means that the 5 yards for the distance of the car. So risk assessment basically is what I'm doing, is a risk assessment of crossing the street. I guess I can go on and on and on about it. It's something which of course you have to do in the public. You're a public individual citizen, and you have to take those measures into consideration, you know. The distance, the car, the speed of the car, the velocity. So those are more technical things, but basically I guess you have to take 3 main considerations. So the distance for you to cross safely from side A to side B, the speed of the car, and the distance of the car. The distance and the speed, the distance and the speed, the distance and the speed of the car, how fast it goes, and the distance that you're from it, you know. So yeah, there you go, a little bit of more mathematical calculations on this cloudy day, cloudy, rainy day. It's not raining yet, but nonetheless, you know, that's how we gotta get doing with that, and here we are on the go, and that's how we gotta get on the doing side of things, and we're going all the way to the mountain, and my second home. So I'm excited, I'm happy, and when I go to the mountain and when I start working out, I'm happy, joyous. It's just that I'm financially stressed. My only stress is financial now, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. And here, we're going east. So again, just the things to consider. For example, here, you'd have to estimate the distance, which is about 10 yards, we'll say a few meters, you know. 15 yards maybe. 10 meters from here to there. There's an exact measurement, but you can make estimates. So estimations, and the speed of the car, here, the speed of the car, how fast it goes, the distance. So those things can be made. If you want to have fun one day, you know, you can just do that all day, I guess. Or a few hours, I guess I can do this. I kind of do it inherently without discussing on my videos, but of course now I'm discussing it. But pretty much when I go on my marches, I kind of do it fast, mathematical, mental calculations, because I'm okay. I'm okay at that, mathematical calculations, estimations, the speed, the distance, and it's pretty much the speed and the distance that are the most important variables for assessing the safety to cross the street. This car is going a little bit faster, so depending on that distance, for example, that car coming there, right? That car coming on a switch on the side. So just to finalize one last point on the matter, you know, it would be the car coming towards you, of course. For example, that car, you know, but not this car. This car, of course, would not be safe for me to cross, but I would calculate the speed it's going and how much the distance I have to cross and how fast I should go the space. So depending on where it is, the distance from me and the speed that it's coming, I would know whether to rush or not, you know. So that can be almost instinctual, but of course there is mathematics mathematical calculations behind that kind of science of crossing the street safely, if you will, it would be the distance and the speed variables, mathematical variables, numbers, whether 44 miles an hour or 40 kilometers an hour, and whether you have to cross 44 meters or 40 meters or 40 yards or 44 yards, those variables. So that's it on that. Going towards the mountain, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, and working out, training, exercising has been and is my medicine and therapy of choice. I guess you also got a little one-on-one on Asperger's weirdness and weird awkward behavior of Aspies. Asperger's is again not a mental illness. It is a neurological, mental, developmental condition which makes us Aspies predisposed to these peculiar ways of communicating and thinking and discussing certain things, such as crossing the street, I guess, the safety of crossing the street, the science, a little bit of mathematics. And I'm not a mathematical expert or genius or a savant, I'm good at geopolitics. Geopolitics is my main thing, and sports and fitness and dancing and rock and roll. So those are my main things, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. And here, passing a little bit through the neighborhood here, and we gotta get doing on that, and going all the way to the mountain, gonna get some air, some fresh air, and gonna get some of that liberty, insecurity, and you got a one-on-one direct Aspie-esque Aspie. I'm an individual Aspie who lives with Asperger's, and again, Asperger's is not a mental illness, and I guess here it can be done also, but here the most prudent thing would be to wait until there's a red lights, right? There's red lights. That would be the most prudent thing to do until there's red lights with that, and we're gonna turn heads left and right. But here you got the more risk is that there's more circulation. So of course whether you have two cars, so now there's another factor added for safety and security. Because if you would have two cars, one there and one there, for example, it would be on that side, you would have to calculate, and that side. So you have two sides to calculate and compute, and that's what it is. So here, see, now we cross the street safely, and that, see, you turn left and right, and that's what it is, and that's what it is safely. But if you would come from both sides, then we have two calculations. If it's even a bigger street, you could have several lanes. So then it gets a little bit more, even more mathematical computations, calculations, which you can do. I'm not a cyborg, cybernetic organism who is a supercomputer, not that I know of. I wouldn't know, I guess. How would I know? I guess Alan Turing in the 21st century, but I wouldn't know anyways, right? I wouldn't even know. Maybe. I have Asperger's. Asperger's is not a mental illness, being an Aspie. I have these weird, peculiar thought patterns, and our brains, an Aspie brain, and I'm part of this small, tiny minority of 0.44%, It's less than half of a percentage of the population. So less than 1% of the population have Asperger's, So being that it is that I have Asperger's, it's this weird social awkward behavior, and certainly as many Aspies do, me being an individual part of this tiny small fraction of the population of Aspies having Asperger's, I'm part of a small tiny fraction of the population of less than 1%, less than half of a percentile. It's 0.44%. So we have a weird way of strangeness, and certain things we are mediocre, average, and so, and we need some support in certain things. There's just other things we're very good at, and especially when it comes to our special interests, also known as obsessive interest, but it doesn't render justice for me to say obsessive, because obsessive is a more negative connotation, while an Aspies have to be supported, encouraged, and as well equipped and understood about what it means to have Asperger's and how that manifests in a daily ritualized routines, and how we operate on a daily basis on the premises and our intensity, concentration, and super focus when we are involved in studying, learning, or doing those special interest activities. It could be chemistry, it could be psychology, it could be computer science, and mine happened to be the Trinity, special interest, 24/7 in it, geopolitics, 24/7, and geopolitics, and the study, the analysis of geopolitics, and of course geopolitics 24/7, and it's 24/7 geopolitics, and rock and roll, sports and fitness, and dancing being my favorite sport and fitness, dancing being my favorite sport and fitness activity that is. And here again, knowing that it's one way, although there they have to stop, but sometimes they don't stop, but although they should stop there, but another thing you can calculate. So again, just an Asperger's, it's not a mental illness, it's a neurological mental developmental condition which makes us predisposed to these special interests, our daily habits and routines, and mental focus and energies, and intense. We can be pretty intense, pretty concentrated, pretty focused. And even today I said I'm gonna leave at 7 because I woke up early, and I delayed by an hour, and then by an hour and another hour till I left. It was 9:44 p.m. So by 2 hours and 44 minutes I delayed my departure because I was immersed in doing geopolitical analysis on the new events, of course, some tragic events, tragic developments in the world of geopolitics. And I have to concur and say that I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and I have predicted what's happening now. I've predicted what's happening now back in 2019 in October, November. I have predicted what's happening now back in October 2019. In October, November. What I predicted an international conflagration on the horizon, a World War III scenario. A World War III scenario, or World War III scenario, World War III scenario. International conflagration. So back to whatever the case may be, and to give it on the go and to get it on that doing, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta get on that rock and roll, and so we're gonna get doing with that, and so it is with the go, So basically the international conflagration, World War III scenario, which I predicted is happening in a parallel similar manner to, not with the exact accuracy, or I don't claim that I predicted it every event by every event, but in a general manner I predicted an international conflagration, a World War III type of situation in the world back in October, November 2019. And of course I gave it that in the coming 7 years there's a high probability of an international conflagration, World War III occurring, and the kind of destruction, if you will, or the cancellation, if you will, the annulment, or the changing of the world order, and fractionalization into regional power structures, and the end type of the hegemonic post-Cold War period, which lasted a long time. And I specialize in Cold War geopolitics, and on daily 21st century, because geopolitical events happen on a daily basis, and I always do analysis. And of course, one of our concern, myself as a Quebecer, Canadian, North American, my theories being fundamentally and foremost concorded for the North American Civilizational Collective, our proponent to that North American Civilizational Collective for regeneration and rehabilitation, and for the three principle of SSD, total security, total service, total defense. SSD meaning for security, service, and defense. SSD standing for security, service, and defense. And my initiatives, propositions are merely and strictly and only foremost and first for the North American Collective, or the North American Civilizational Complex, of which Quebec, Canada were part of, and North America, and strictly and foremost and only for defense. SSD, security, service, and defense. Thereof. That has to be clearly understood so that there's no misunderstandings, and until we have the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, and that's my dream for the public-private partnership, and the establishment of the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dragon Army, aka North American Integrated Dance League for environmental education and action, and the Dragon Army for the aka the North American SSD Legion, Security Service and Defense Legion, for the 63, 10 provinces plus 50 states plus 3 territories, 10 plus 50 plus 3, that's 63 and you add them all together, and for the North American Collective, of which we made here the great linguistic compromise of the French language, and we continue to operate by doing that encouragement of learning some French. And here is Quebec province of more than 9 million people, myself as a Quebecer, Canadian, and North American to do on the XYZ, and that's how we gotta get doing for the love. And here we are, you know, in the collective, and you got some beautiful flowers. And I predicted what's happening now. This, to just say one more word on Asperger's again, once again, it's not N.O.T., not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition. It's not a disorder, it's not an illness. There's still a lot of vocabulary to be misused. Aspies like myself being that we're not a lot. There's not a lot of Aspies in the world. Asperger's, like myself, being part of this tiny small minority, there's less than 1%, less than half of a percentile, 0.44%, 0.44% in the world. 0.44%, that's not a lot, that's less than 1 out of 300. So there's mutations in the brain. So these mutations have occurred in the brains of Aspies. So these mutations in the brain. So basically an Aspie brain is different, and these mutations of the brain have occurred. An Aspie brain has these mutations at several levels of the brain. And these mutations make us different, and we see the world differently, and we can be pretty weird and have certainly challenges and certain areas of interaction and certain areas of living, you know. And some aspects require some support, some level of support and love and understanding. And like, I want to be loved and love, and I love to see people loving and rock and roll with that. So also certain support, because due to also our special interests, of which we are super focused, super intense, super concentrated in, that's why they seem obsessive, but they're not really obsessive, they're special. But that is the intensity and the focus and the concentration of an Aspie. When I work out, I march. Now I'm doing my workouts. I'm super intense, super focused, and they last for hours and hours and hours. So rock and roll, put the rubber with it, put the rubber. So those are, of course, something, and that's what we do with that, and that's how we gotta get doing with the rock and roll, and so we gotta get on the go. So that's how we did. Gonna do it with that, and that's what it is. So whatever the case may be for the XYZ, and we gotta get on that consequential thing, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. And so we gotta get on that verse here. See again the studying and the analysis. I'm gonna make sure my fellow citizen nodded and watched and looked me cross the street, nodded. So these mutations make us strange and awkward, you know, and weird in certain things. They're the elements of life which are not necessarily negative, but they can impede, you know, those special interests, because they take a lot of my routines and ritual routines. As many Aspies, we have those ritualized like routines, and they revolve around those special interests, and that's what it is with that. So they take a lot of our time. So that's why we gotta get on the proponent things and the propositions that we use sometimes, and the phrases which we use sometimes in language and linguistics are, of course, a little bit more academic, intellectual, and sophisticated or intellectual, academic, which are not totally required for the case may be, for whatever the case may be. If we explain something, sometimes we tend to be overly verbose. So that is a major characteristics of Asperger's, you know. So that major characteristics of Asperger's make us that we are proponent, of course, to the direction of where we are in life, and sometimes that's what we gotta get doing. Hey. That's how they're gonna go with that, and that's how they're gonna get it with the rock and roll, you know. So it's something which we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta do it, you know. So we gotta get doing XYZ with that, and hear the beautiful. That's why they gotta get on the go with that. So their children are happy. I'm happy. Brings me a little bit of that joy with that, and That's how we gotta getting on the side of things and getting on a little bit of stretching. So it's something which we do on the road, and that's how we gotta get crossing of the streets, here safely. So Aspies, we have those ritualized routines, and those ritualized routines, they happen to be ritualized routines. They happen to occur in a ritualized, intense, concentrated manner, ritualized, intense, concentrated manner. Those routines, ritualized routines of Aspies. And again, there's no medication for Asperger's. There's support on a certain level, and unfortunately, among the Aspie community, there's a high unemployment rate, and a lot of Aspies, myself included, I'm stressed financially. Well, I had a lot of jobs which I loved and I wanted to keep, but Asperger's being Aspie, it's misunderstood, mislabeled. It's even feared to a certain extent. It's feared. There's something fear involved. It's because some people might think that it's contagious. You can catch the contagion, the virus, and no, you cannot. It's Aspies. Our brains they have mutations, and these mutations occur genetically, or they occur, of course, by biological factors and genetic factors, and biological and genetic and biological and genetic factors. So it's not an illness which you can catch. It's just our brains have these mutations, and it's not an illness. It's not, but certainly it's a lot of misunderstanding still. But in the 21st century, there has been a great improvement, and ABC did a great documentary, which I have to watch again. In my last videos, I said BBC, so I have to do the revision and correct that it's actually ABC, not BBC. British Broadcasting Corporation, not to be confused with the pornography acronym. And myself, I stopped watching pornography between June and September 2021. So soon to be 4 years since I don't oppose it, I don't condone it, I don't morally object to it. I am androgynous, pansexual, part of the LGBTQ community. But you want to love with me, you want to love, you gotta be, you gotta love, you gotta be 18 plus. So I'm gonna card you just like, of course, you get to buy booze or liquor or wine. So the same principle I'm gonna apply. Or here in Canada is legal since 2019. All cannabis, marijuana, weed, the weed, that MJ, cannabis is legal since 2019. So whatever, I'm just gonna apply the same principle as if you go to buy some weed or some cannabis. So that's just basically how I'm gonna do it with that. That is basically what I'm gonna do. So basically that's what I'm gonna apply with, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and they're gonna get it on the go. So that's something which we're gonna have to do, So something not to be feared, Asperger's, because we certainly have our challenges. But myself, I'm somebody who does not like violence. I don't like violence. I do not like violence. I can be pretty intense and concentrated and super focused, especially when I study, learn, or theorize about geopolitics, of which is my kingdom, my domain. I have many protocols and have written documents and on USB keys and online. I discuss it, my philosophies, my theories, my analysis on a daily basis. It occurs 24/7. Even when I march, sometimes I can interject and put a little bit of geopolitical spins on daily events, daily life occurrences which happen today, now, and whatever the case may be. I'm gonna wait for to cross the street and gonna pass here. So that's I can go about the geopolitics of the price of gas, right? Because that's a major factor, but I'm not gonna go into it now. So once again, to finalize, there's a certain level of support which different individual Aspies, I'm part of this tiny small fraction of a population of a community, 0.44% of us. We do 0.44%. It's kind of like a song. We do 0.44%. But there's a certain level of different support which an Aspies requires, and Certainly, the more problematic can be that due to our special interest, they take so much time and effort and daily routines that, of course, they are on the side of things, and that's what we're gonna get doing with the side of things with that. And yeah, they require a lot of time, and we can be intense, and I can lose track. I do so much geopolitics that I can lose track of how much I am into it. The geopolitics are so how much intense and focus and hyper concentration I have when I'm involved in geopolitics. So basically, for me, that's because I'm an N.A.C.W.P, so I don't see it as a negative thing, obsessive thing, but it can be a little bit on the negative side because these special interests basically can cause a certain neglect towards other things, So they can cause a certain neglect towards other things, towards other things. So this neglect, I'm just gonna go hydrate a bit in the park. So we can neglect certain things. But if we're on the house, if I'm told, I developed a Mr. Clean personality. Mr. Clean personality, so I guess kind of like split. But if I'm told, I do it, and for my anonymous friend, I'll do it, so they said, well, can you wash that? And yeah, I rock and roll, I wash it. Can you wash that? Yeah, I rock and roll, I wash it. Hey, beautiful white flower. What a beauty. Quite cute, eh? Like they're just beautiful flower. And yes, I certainly do, but due to these special interests, they take so much of our time, daily routines, and I don't mind change, but some aspects are more difficult towards change. I don't mind it, especially economic, financial, commercial change. I would love to have some economic, financial, commercial change because I'm financially stressed. But besides that, again, my Go Aspies go 24/7. Thank you again, a fellow Aspie, my one and only last donation since about September 2024. I haven't had any real sponsorship in. In 2024, I survived on 11,000. I survived on 11,000. But shout out to the fellow Aspie who gifted a $25.44. $25.24. I put it to good use. I remember buying a bottle of wine and some cheese and some food. It was just food for the Sabbath, the weekend basically. And so that was the money invested in. And I live a pretty simple, austere, severe lifestyle. But my daily routines are really, it's like more than 12 hours a day just doing geopolitical analysis, workout, training and exercising, and rock and roll. Those are my three main things, but I can do other things. What does that say? 2012. I remember most the 7, 8, 9, 10 years after it gets like blurred, and 11 years, and I have plenty of scars on my body. And I lived in a very moldy place on the island of Montreal, very moldy, and I was attacked by surprise, hit my head. I still have to go to the Jewish General Hospital to retrieve my archives. I was put on some meds. My right arm was dislocated. It kind of was cracked back, kind of was put back in place by the doctors. It was cracked back as it was dislocated, and I was put on some meds, and I was like in a coma. For a few days I was like in a coma. Like state, like kind of my own Silly Empire episode, I guess. So I was attacked by surprise a few years ago before I moved, and hit my head, and my memory is kind of blurred. If I go back 9 years, it's blurry, then 10 years it goes gray, and then 11 plus it's like a blackout, like retrograde amnesia, So I just have plenty of scars on the body, literally scars, I guess, and internal trauma. So I don't know, I got scars and tattoos. I don't remember how I have them, and I have Canada tatted up. I have suffering tatted up, suffering, freedom, the word freedom and suffering and passion, and some Latin. So sometimes it comes back with trauma. It's caused usually by a trauma, and then it can return by a trauma. It's caused by a trauma, and a trauma can cause the memory to come back, right? But in raw retrograde amnesia. In memory, you don't lose what you don't lose is linguistic skills, because they're stored in different parts. Linguistic skills, language, and mathematical knowledge. But I don't remember high school, stuff like that. I just don't remember. It's like a blackout. I have from what I've written on journals, but I just don't remember, Don't remember with that. So I remember the past 7 years very good, 7, 8, when I crossed Canada coast to coast. Before that, before 2017, I remember moving from that moldy place, underground basement, and I was, of course, in an underground basement, and I was in a moldy place, and I had a little bit of a move. I moved, I think 9 or 10 years ago even, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and gonna get doing on that rock and roll. The children are happy, I'm happy. There's safety, security, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get doing on the love, and gotta watch it on the side because I'm gonna go hydrate. But anyways, the hydration part that I'm gonna go do now, it's gonna go on the side because they're taking the whole they're taking over, and it's for the youth, so it's gonna go on the side here. Anyways, I had written some children's books, but I wasn't able to afford the $500 to publish because of the literary agent, and whatever the case may be, that's what we gotta be doing with that, and that's what we gotta be doing on the rock and roll. And here we got a great park. Oh, this goes high. We got a great park for the dog park here. Rock and roll for the dog parks. It's quite nice, you can come with a dog. It's one of the best in Montreal. So thank you to the workers who build the public workers. Imagine all the work underneath to have this water. It's quite brains and muscle involved. So this is a great park. See, it's very big, and you have a lot of different things which you can enjoy for the dogs, and different benches and different things that the dogs can play with. So this park here in Integree is really nice. Dog park. See, I'm gonna come closer so you can see it, but it's one of the best that we have from Montreal. I guess there's others, but in terms of the best, this is one of the best that we have, and this is what we have here. See, it's quite nice how it's made. Big and nice, and they have a lot of things to play with if you have dogs, if you are, I don't have myself except for poodles, if poodles I can pet, I can go a little bit there and check it out, but besides that, and poodles you can pet there, see poodles, but you can check how big it is, so you can come and enjoy here. See, oh, it's in French only, but there's certain rules, I guess, but it's kind of cool. Yeah, see? Yeah, you can come and enjoy it, man. If you have dogs, it's quite nice. Has several entrances, and it's very spacious, so it's perfect here, I guess, for the community, and gotta appreciate that. So, back to just one more thing about Asperger's again, or the brain has mutations. It's not a mental illness, a neurological mental divergent condition, and makes Aspies like myself, predisposed to doing those special interests, which take a lot of our time, and daily routines revolve usually around those, and we certainly require a certain level of support when it comes to those special interests, and a certain support. Oh, that's beautiful. Rosé, pink, how nice. Just gorgeous. Support, usually it's understanding and a certain level of support, because those special interests can be where we are super focused, super intense, super concentrated, and we take a lot of our daily time. Sometimes I lose myself. I say, whoa, I just spent 6 hours almost non-stop with some 3 coffee cups. I just did analysis, geopolitical analysis. I checked the news, Canadian news, Quebec news, United States news, news from Mexico, news from all over the world, to make a left, right, and centrist and intellectual, academic, universal, worldwide, global type of analysis, because geopolitics has to do with the local, national, and international, and geo-regional, geopolitical, civilizational. Geopolitics is a global, international, worldwide study and analysis and study, and is defined in different ways. It's usually the interaction, political, economic, mostly political, diplomatic, is part of the same sphere, political diplomacy, interactions, and associations, and treaties, and histories, and culture, and economics, and finance, and military, and conflicts, and conflict resolution, and international relations. So it really encompasses a lot of things, a lot of things with that, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, So it certainly encompasses a lot of different things, and that's certainly, it encompasses it could be certain things such as traffic lights, Well, from a perspective that the traffic lights, and of course, and their varieties of the traffic lights, can of course have the propositions to where they, for example, where they were built, the economics behind the traffic lights, where they were built, and how the system is done and operated. There's certain manners of those distinctions which we have, because they could be fabricated in the United States, Quebec, Canada, or China even, or China. So that's what it is, So those are things in that context, just to explain a little bit to the dynamics of it. And we gotta salute the public workers who pick up the garbage, always for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, the firefighters. Gotta give them, public workers, please, Wall Street millionaires, finance the truckers and those public workers, the nurses, and those finance them a massage therapy session, Finance them a massage therapy session, Finance them a massage therapy session. Because they deserve it, earn it, and more than yours truly. The firefighters and the public workers, The public workers, and see now how my brain works and switches and operates. I know that these trucks are going south, some are going north, and I interpose them in a geopolitical sphere and integrated in my daily geopolitical theoretical analysis, and how certain trucks and what they're carrying are vital to the continuity of the North American civilizational complex, whether they're carrying potatoes, bacon, milk, lettuce, or baby formula for the infants, and other things of the goods which we have. And of course, they're going east, west, north, south, and not just in Montreal, but of course, Montreal, big metropolis, second most populated city of 2.5 million people. When we consider the metropolitan area has 4.5 million people, and of course, all the trucks going east, west, north, south, roundabout, they're open for sabotage and espionage, So, being that they're open for sabotage and espionage, and they carry vital, I always put them in an integrated geopolitical theoretical analysis for the total SSD, total security, total service, total defense, of which I'm calling to be embarked in the 21st century for the 63, the North American Union, and for the Dragon Army to operate by those principles. And I need to know everything that's coming in by the ports and the airports, everything that's coming in by the ports and the airports. Total security, total service, total defense for the 21st century by implementing my trinity of theories, being the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, Detroit fusion theory, and the DFT, democratic fusion theory. That's what I'm calling thereof. And my march to the mountain, part of my dream, manifesting as the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom. Gotta send some love to the firefighters, and please, Wall Street, business, and this stuff, economic, financial times, not just for myself, but we have record-breaking debts, We have record-breaking debt. We have record-breaking debt. Record-breaking debt, Record-breaking debt. So to those picking up the garbage, and record-breaking debt with that, and that's what we're gonna go doing with that. And since we have record-breaking debt, both public and private, and financially stressed are many public workers who pick up the garbage. I got 3 services: the garbage, the recycling, and the compost. And in 2018, I worked on the compost, and so of course, please finance them some massage therapy sessions. I wish I could, or spas or whatever, something for the body. The body's a temple for pleasure and purpose, and finance them a little bit of that good. And that's how we're gonna get doing with that. Oh, we gotta be careful there. See, storms came or windy, and we gotta be careful. So please, Wall Street Millionaires Business, finance the public workers, nurses also, doctors in the public, nurses in the public, firefighters, and those who pick up the garbage, the recycling. A massage therapy session. I wish I could afford a massage therapy session, but I can't. I'm financially stressed. But the firefighters, the nurses, the doctors, and of course those in the public who, the public workers, pick up the garbage, and they deserve it and earn it more than yours truly, and they deserve it more than me. Me, I can of course take a bath, and which I'm gonna have to take a bath, because I'm pretty sore. So probably take a bath later today, or tomorrow take 3, and before Monday I take 3 baths, I guess, as I'm sore, super sore, and gonna work out today a lot, and tomorrow gonna work out a lot, and the day before that, last week, did a lot of things and worked a lot of good workout, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And please just do that a little bit for the public wellness. It's super important to do on the public wellness side of things. It's something which we gotta be mindful of, the things of which we do have in common, as a collective. So it takes the public and the private partnership, and my dream is fundamentally a call, for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex, across North America. Gonna twist my hips left and right, give some push-ups, encourage you all to work out, train, exercise. That's a beautiful beast. I love these beasts, these machines, and of course I gotta be prudent when I cross the street here, do again all those calculations, and I just want to see something here. Oh, he spotted the island. Part of the island here. So we're going here, basically. Here. From here, which is about 13.3, depending which direction, 13.3, 13.4. So we're going here, but we don't have the full map. You can see, kind of looks like a hawk, like an H-A-W-K, kind of looks like the island. See the island of Montreal, surrounded by a big river. Yesterday in the video we were here. And then we went like this. We went like this. From here we came, here we came here. And then we went like this, and then we kind of went like here. We went back like that, and then we came back here. See? So we kind of did like this yesterday. So there's a lot of things, and that's what we got to get doing with that, and we got to be on the transmissive side. So there you go. You have the island. The island is big. It's 2.5 million people, and it's a huge island. And I wonder what that thing is there, hanging there. Does that have a purpose? Oh yeah, because I think they put something new there. It's kind of blurred. I can't see, my vision's blurred, but see, that kind of is okay because there were some new things done. So we gotta salute the workers. It takes that red. So I guess the workers, but if they forgot a bag or what's going on. Is that safe, secure? I guess maybe it is, because it looks that they put some signs there and they did some work. So I gotta give a shout out, Hydro-Quebec. So I love me some of this architecture here. Hydro-Quebec, we have a institution that's just built over decades, and we now have more than 63 dams, which provide clean, zero pollution, zero emission energy. So I always rock and roll for Hydro-Quebec workers, always for the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, all those flipping some cheeseburgers, hamburgers, fast food joints, You gotta think about them, give them some LOVE, you know, and buy a house for my anonymous friend, gonna split 50-50, and, you know, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that, and we're gonna get on the love, you know. Love is also important, not just money, finance, economics also, but gotta got some love in with that, so that's how we're gonna get on the doing side of things, and we're gonna be implementing, you know, my DRT, debt refusion theory, my CIT, citizen integration theory, and my DRT in a public-private partnership type of way, and created through complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, being the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdoms, dragon army, aka North American integrated SSD Legion and SSD Legion, and the dancing goddess army, the dancing goddess army, that DJ. North American Integrated Dance League for the environmental education and action and pleasure. It's pleasurable to dance, and dancing is my favorite sport. Priestess Hana, Adrian Hana Dragon. Still officially yet to change my name, but requires some money. So, you know, I took blood, sweat, and tears and did more than 372 of my own workout training program system, and which of course I created back in 2019. More than 372 sessions of it, and of course that's when I turned my A into an O, you know, surname. Dragon became dragon, you know, dragon became dragon, and here I am, you know, in Arc-Isle, Montreal, second most populated city in Montreal. Montreal is the second most biggest populated city in North America, when included also. It's the seventh or eighth in North America, second biggest in Canada, of course, second biggest in Canada. It was used to be number one top for many years in terms of population, but now it's seventh or eighth, even when including Mexico City is the biggest in North America, when Canada, United States, and Mexico are part of the North American Collective, and Haiti, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and other, of course, those states with that. So that's how we gotta get doing, you know, and we gotta get on that love side of things, you know. Hopefully somebody gonna make love today across the free world. Gotta rock and roll for them. For the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, IT workers, those flipping some of that fast food, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and of course the doctors and the daycare workers changing some diapers. As I'm gonna discuss a little bit of geopolitics, and again, thanks again to that fellow Aspie who sent $25.44. I'm always open for business. 2024 I survived on less than 11,000, and the problem with, there's a very high, way too high unemployment rate in the Aspie community, you know. It's a lot, it's more than 44%, you know, and unfortunately there's a very high suicidal ideation and tendencies and depression rates, way higher than the 99.56%, of which the neurotypical population, you constitute 99.56 compared to us neurodivergents who Aspies, we are 0.44%, and unfortunately there's a high depression, high suicidal rate. But I've been depressed, I've been suicidal, so, and what changed my life, my event, I go back to that event, was crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and having that I crossed Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean in 2017. That's when I crossed Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean in 2017. And crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean in 2017. That event, summer 2017, that event made me come out of being depressed, made me come out of my depression. I had an awakening. I said to myself, like a voice, there's so many things to do, to see, to live, started working out, training, exercising, started my fitness journey after that. So just crossing Canada, you know, coast to coast 2017. That event in my life really changed my life. So I had a new beginning then, as I had a new beginning post-COVID, because I survived COVID, and I guess I'm on my way of another new beginning now, you know. So it's something which we gotta be doing, and of course that is the deal here where we are, you know, to getting on the go. So it's something which changed my whole life. 2017. Before that I was depressed, I was suicidal. Crossing Canada coast to coast made me say to myself, so many things to see, to do, and you know, to see, to do in Canada. And I started working out, training and exercising, and that event really changed my whole life. And Before that, I was kind of depressed and suicidal, and crossing Canada coast to coast, you know, turned completely my life around. I started working out training. I lost between 80 and 93 pounds since. I created my own workout training program system. I write rock and roll songs on the daily and written hundreds of them in English and French, and tens of thousands, I guess, of maybe hundreds and thousands of pages of geopolitical theoretical analysis and theory and propositions and philosophies for the North American Civilisation Collective, of which you have hundreds of videos, of which I discuss several of them. Some I don't discuss in depth because they're binational Canada and United States for the North American Collective security matters, which are theories to be put into practice from a system, which I cannot really overly discuss too much about those things, such as my total mobile defense theory, you know, total mobile defense theory, you know. That's what we gotta get doing, the total mobile defense theory. That's what they gotta get doing with that. So we gotta turn our heads left and right to see on the go, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. So something which I gotta turn, see or left or right, and they wanna get it on the go, and is that a D for Deutschland or Dragon? And that's what we gotta get doing with that. So yeah, so the total mobile defense theory, the TM total mobile defense theory, and total mobile defense theory, that's what we gotta get doing with that. The total mobile defense theory, that's what we gotta get doing with that ago, you know. So total mobile defense theory, when it becomes a system, it's put into practice, you know, it's put into action, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing with that. That's what we gotta get on that go side of things, you know. So something which we gotta get on that, on the side, man, passing on the street. So that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. I gotta cross the street left and right, left and right, left and right, right and left, you know. That's what we gotta get doing, you know. So something which we gotta be prudent. Even here, it is not a lot of circulation. You still gotta be prudent on go, prudent on go, you know, to get doing on that. So that's what we gotta get doing, man. Prudence, my individual liberty, my security, my joy, you know, my joy, my liberty, and my security, and that's what we gotta get doing. Because my joy, my security, my work, which is doing this vlog and doing these meditation and my workout, to be in equilibrium with somebody else's, with my own, with somebody else's, and with my own, you know, my own, my individual liberty, my security, my individual liberty, and my security, my individual liberty, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. For example, when somebody jogs, you always see me in my videos, I take a step left and right, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. So my individual liberty and my individual liberty, my security, somebody else's as well. That's what we gotta balance, you know, balance, equilibrium, you know? Different neighborhoods, Montreal, you know. So back to, of course, Asperger's is a way too high unemployment rate, again, because of these misunderstandings and misconstruencies and whatever the case may be. These misunderstandings a lot, and mislabeling what Asperger's is, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. So explaining a little bit simple that its brains of Aspies are mutated, and we might seem weird and eccentric and have these awkward social difficulties in social interactions, you know? So that's what we gotta get doing with that. That's how we're gonna get rock and roll, and that's how we're gonna get now, you know. So there's something which we gotta be, and something which we gotta be, must do now, you, me, you, and left and right. And see, look at that beautiful Lila, and so we gotta get doing, you know. So gotta get on the go, and gotta love, you know, sometimes. And I guess I died several times, you know. But 2017 really changed my life, and crossing Canada coast to coast, ocean to ocean in summer 2017. That made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, or my family, Canadians, Quebecers, and North Americans. Sometimes, you know, we're dysfunctional, but that's what we got, and that's what we gotta. That's what we gotta be. That's what we gotta be doing, you know. So for the XYZ, and so we gotta be meditating about, you know, getting on the go, and so we gotta be doing now, you know. So yeah, so crossing Canada coast to coast, you know, changed my whole life, established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and that's was a new beginning for me. Before that, I was depressed, suicidal, and again, there's a high unemployment rate, not just for it's for Aspies, a very high unemployment rate, you know, very high unemployment rate, but also for the depression and the depression, you know, the depression and the depression and the suicidal tendency. Here we are, man. Survivors, you know. Make love tonight, because you never know, man. I always left the probability for nuclear weapon use in World War III as an open question, you know. But for the biological weaponry, it was a 2/3, so 66.6%. And on COVID, I don't know what caused COVID. Of course, I don't know what caused COVID. And of course, I don't know what caused COVID. I don't know what caused COVID. But it was I don't know what caused COVID, but of course, COVID was caused by supposedly. Oh, that's nice. Look at that, nice. By, of course, COVID was caused by a bioweapon, according to the CIA. Now, my belief on COVID, what caused COVID, I don't know for sure. Or I believe first and foremost that it was caused by snakes to human beings. Snakes. Second, I don't know for sure. And thus third, I cannot rule out another possibility. Fourth dimension to that trend is what I know for sure, is that before COVID, in 2019, and I have survived COVID between February 2020 and March 2020. Before COVID, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration, aka World War III, on the scenario on the horizon. And so I created, and produced that workout training program system, and of course I made that conclusion and analysis, so that is what it is with that. So what I was predicted kind of unfolded and happened. But on COVID, my trinity has been, is, and will be this. First and foremost, I don't know for sure the cause of COVID. I don't know for sure. But first, I guess I could say snakes, because I believe it was transmitted from snakes. But second, I don't know for sure, and since I don't know for sure, and I cannot confirm, my belief in snakes is not confirmed, I cannot rule out another possibility. What I do know is that before COVID, I had predicted it. I predicted an international conflagration. So that's my holy trinity on COVID, plus the fourth dimension, I believe it was snakes. It was transmitted the coronavirus, COVID virus to people. I don't know for sure, thus I cannot rule out another possibility. Whatever it was, I try to keep the protocols, hygienic protocols of COVID as best as possible, and I urge you all to do the same. To keep the protocols, hygienic protocols of COVID. The protocols of COVID, the hygienic protocols of COVID, and to somebody else as much as possible to get it and XYZ, so hygienic protocols, The hygienic protocols of COVID, I try to keep them as much as possible, and I urge people to also keep them as much as possible. Keep them as much as possible. Let's do a little bit of geopolitics. So the geopolitical events which are transpiring now are, of course, grave, and it's a potential for a World War III, I guess. Some argue that it actually started, and we came close to nuclear war. Pakistan and India, it's an unresolved conflict from the 20th century, and that's exactly one of my main analysis of 2019, when I concluded that humanity set towards an international conflagration, was based, of course, on due to these unresolved conflicts of the 20th century. Unresolved conflicts of the 20th century, of which these wars, unresolved conflicts that dated from the 20th century, specifically from the Cold War period and era, which lasted almost 45 years. 44 years and 9 months between March 1947 and end of December 1991. So the whole Cold War period was a long time. Lasted a long time, really long time. Right? Almost 3 generations, almost 45 years. From 1947, early 1947, to late, because late December 1991. So they, of course, lasted a long time. 45 years almost, more than 44 years. So that's what it is, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, because you never know. See, a storm kind of seems stormy here. A storm can start any minute. The storm can start any minute, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get doing, So, yeah, man. That's how we gotta get doing with that, man. Beautiful. Wow. I don't know, for some reason I'm thinking of the French flag. I guess because in geopolitics, being an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, I kind of know the colors of the flags. And it's kind of it's red, white, and blue, right? So There's a lot of kind of red, white, and blue here, so kind of very gorgeous. I just love it. I love it. Good job, good job, good job. Really nice. I love that little garden. That with a big smile on my face. Good job there. This one also is kind of nice. Where there's tiny small flowers. That one's very beautiful as well. I like that light blue. And these ones here is kind of nice with the rocks. And I love, of course, everything that steps like that, you know. Kind of stepping up and going like the hanging gardens. A little bit of the hanging garden style. Kind of nice. Very nice, actually. But the one with the lots of reddish, white and blue is really cool. This one's nice also, how it goes. Like, really nice. So again, on geopolitics, we have the geopolitical events. I gotta say, we gotta get a hawk on that North American dome. North American dome, North American dome. North American dome. For the North American dome, you know. We gotta put the hawk in it, you know. We gotta put that hawk, you know. We gotta put the hawk in N.A.C.W.P and we gotta launch it up and get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, Dragon Army integrated based on my CIT citizen integration theory and 4D and only for the SSD, total service, total security, total defense, total service, total security, total defense, you know. Total service, total security, total defense. SSD principles only. So of course the rearmament has begun in Europe, in Japan, as of course I predicted back in 2019. And rearmament is part of an international conflagration, global conflict, World War III, right? Japan even, wow, that's quite something, because Japan and Germany are the taboos. You know, it's Japan and Germany, you know. Japan and Germany are the taboos. So these are two taboos because of the restrictions, you know, imposed by the victors of the Second World War, by the taboos of the Second World War, and that's what we gotta get doing, the restrictions and the taboos, you know. I'm gonna wait here because it's a bit noisy, be consequential, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing on the go. Little tactics. Hear that noise? There we go, we're in the clear now. We're in the clear now. It's a bit noisy, smelly. So of course the rearmament has begun in Germany and Japan. They're taboos. Germany Germany is a big taboo. At least from a Western civilization perspective, but from an Eastern, civilization perspective, from a Western civilization. Germany's rearmament is a taboo. From an Eastern perspective civilization, the taboo is Japan. That requires a whole set of 3 hours just geopolitical on the taboos that have been broken in the past 3.5 years with the invasion of Ukraine and the North Korea. The North Korea is rising cyber espionage and nuclear weapons development and ICBM rockets, and China's massive nuclear rearmament. China's yesterday's statement in the past 48 hours was calling on the United States to stop the Golden Dome because it would trigger a quite paradoxical, I mean, they have increased their nuclear armaments and nuclear weapons by a big proportion. They went from about 400 to 650, from about 400 to 650. That's a big increase if you calculate in the percentage. And I can see me and my anonymous friends sharing this 50-50. That number 25 there, and D. Ramsey, I believe. D. Ramsey, or number 44 or 40, 37, whatever the numbers are. They're going up or down. I guess they're going up and up on the other side. I really have to check my eyes again, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And so we're gonna get on the road. So something which we gotta get doing, Yeah, 31 is gonna be also nice. This is 50-50 because it goes up. So the rearmament of Germany and Japan are two paradoxical taboos. The East and the West, because Japan had certain obligations, and only for defense pact, which was mainly with the United States. Japan, South Korea, right? Because after the end of the Second World War and the Korean War Peninsula, right? Korean Peninsula War of the 50s, and the German, because of the World War I involvement and the Second World War, and the world. And the Second World War, and the Second World War. So Germany is a big taboo. It's a big taboo. Germany is a big taboo. It's a big taboo. And the rearmament, the rearmament factor is a big taboo. But it happened. Mass investment. The Russia invading Ukraine. Russia-Ukraine crisis, which again dates to the Second World War, which was my premise back then. So now, of course, we are at a point because we got to get into that Golden Dome, and we got to implement my DRT because we're on the verge. Even today could happen. I left 9:44 a.m. It could happen that way. CIA, public financial collapse, a public financial collapse. We could see a public financial collapse, Canada. a public financial collapse of Canada. A public financial collapse because of the interest has more than doubled, because the interest has more than doubled. The interest payments has more than doubled. Can you imagine that? So big, eh? So big that in just 3 years the interest payments have more than doubled. That's a beautiful architecture. In Montreal we have rich architectural designs such as this one. This could be half-half, 50-50 with that one and that one, that one and that one. The housing the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, and the Dragon Army, and the Dragon Army and the Dancing Goddess Army, and that's what we're gonna get doing, the Dancing Goddess Army and the Dragon Army. So of course in a parallel manner, what we have here today on the ground in Canada and both the United States, we are in the similar public and private financial very precariousness, and the public financial collapse could happen today, could happen tomorrow, because the amount of interest which we paid on the debt, the amount of interest which we paid on the debt has consequently increased so much. Just the amount which has increased so much, just more than doubled. The amount has increased more than double. Can you imagine that? More than double. And so we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll DRT, that refusion theory, which I'm gonna discuss. After discuss it, is the only solution. There's no other solution. You can argue all you want, but it is the only solution. There's no other solution where we are now with the current financial economic situation. So parallel again, my prediction kind of came through in a parallel way to what's happening now, and I have to really discuss in depth in the coming days, weeks, months ahead, the Western paradox of Germany's rearmament, and the other paradox of course Germany's rearmament, and of course the other paradox of the Eastern rearmament of course Japan and Germany, the East-West dynamics, because both are kind of taboo because of where we left off at the end of the Second World War. So now, because I don't want to forget, and I have to mention it every time because it's crucial, a solution. With solutions we got to focus, myself included, of course, is the DRT, the debt refusion theory. The DRT debt refusion theory. So what is the DRT? The debt refusion theory, the DRT stands for D for debt, R refusion T theory, and it is the solution to the current public and for the mostly also private financial situations in which we find ourselves in now. Both the Canadian and the United States. Both Canada and the United States were in a similar financial situation. Very precarious. We paid last year more than 20.3 billion. More than 46.5 billion, correction. In 2020, 2021, we paid 20.3 billion. 20.3 billion with that. So that we paid 20.3 billion, that is the amount of interest only. So basically what you notice is that the interest payments have more than doubled. Right? Just, yes, due to the coronavirus, of which I had the COVID. I survived the coronavirus, the COVID, and so I'm going now to my second home, the Mount Royal. I have to discuss the DRT, debt refusion theory, because paradoxically is the solution. My DRT theory is the only solution, or I'm going to say, or something which resembles the principles, that is the fundamental principles of my DRT theory, are and is the solution, consequently, or something which resembles my DRT theory, because it's not sustainable. The debt has reached so much. The interest only, look at that downtown Korea, the interest on the public debt in just 3 years has more than doubled. So consequently, since our GDP did not double, we have to cut and reduce the spending. That's why I'm asking Carney, Uncle Carney, what are we going to cut? What are we going to cut in terms of the spending? What are we going to cut? What are we going to cut in terms of the spending, We're going to have to cut something. What are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? The spending, what are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? The spending, what are we gonna cut? The police, the RCMP, whatever the case may be, you know, whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be, we're gonna have to reduce and cut the spending. We're gonna have to reduce and cut the spending. Something we're gonna have to cut the spending. We're gonna have to reduce and cut the spending. We're gonna have to. Because the principle applies for an individual. Just like an individual has to cut and reduce the spending. Has to cut and reduce the spending. If the interest doubles while the salary stagnates, because many salaries, the majority of the salaries have increased by 4.4% in 5 years. So if that happens at an individual level, an individual has to reduce the budget. Whether you stop smoking, whether you stop buying liquor, whether you stop buying smokes, whatever the case may be. 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 Whatever the case may be, have to cut the spending. We have to cut the spending. In the public, we're gonna have to cut and reduce the spending. Whatever that case may be. Whatever you cut and reduce the spending, something has to be cut in the public. Uncle Connie, what are we gonna cut? Since our GDP didn't double, you know, the mathematical financial principles here in play. It's mathematicals. Mathematical financial principles. And have to cut maybe public healthcare, the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the prisons, the public sanitation, national defense. You realize our GDP, our economy didn't double. During COVID, the interest rates, not the rates necessarily, but the interest payments on the public debt have more than doubled from 20.3 billion to 46.5. Double check the numbers, check the accuracy, but there's a big disproportionate increase. While the GDP only increased 1 or 2, 3%. So you realize that is not sustainable. We have to cut and reduce. We have to cut and reduce the spending. We have to cut and reduce the spending. We have to cut something. Something is gonna have to be reduced and cut. Cut the budget, cut the spending. Something has to be cut and reduced in the spending. Something has to be cut or reduced in the spending. We have to. There's no other way, you know. There's just no other way around that. There's no other way around that. It just has to be done. So I'm asking Uncle Connie, what are we gonna cut in the budget? What are we gonna cut? Because something has to be cut. Something has to be reduced. As I enter the mountain here, my second home. Open question. What are we gonna do? The solution is the DRT. Implementing my D, debt of refusion T theory. The DRT theory is the solution, or something very similar to my DRT theory. And since I'm in the wilderness, I'm gonna wild it out. And of course, gonna rock and roll my mane out. Anybody wants to buy some locks of holy rainbow dragon Adrian Hanna dragon's hair, $1 million each lock to give 50%, half to my anonymous friend, and that's what we're gonna be doing, and that's what we're gonna be rock and rolling with that. Here we are, you know, on the go, and here we are. I love coming here. Just every time I come here, I just feel so good. It's like my second home, and my family here, the flora, the fauna, the rabbits, the flowers, and for years and years and years I've been doing environmental work here, you know, environmental work, lots of environmental work with that, and that's what it is. And I've been doing lots of work here, you know, lots of work, and that's how we gotta get doing, you know. That's how we gotta get doing, you know, lots of work, and that's how we gotta get doing on that love, man. I just love coming here a lot. I make second home, you know. It just makes me so happy, joyous to come here. I love civilization also, you know. I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, so I got love for civilization, and of course my theories are for safeguarding, at least maintaining and safeguarding the North American collective civilizational complex of which we're part of. And myself as a Quebecer Canadian I'm also a mystic. I was born in the United States 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man, and served in the United States Armed Forces twice, 2 different wars, 156 years apart. And see, here we go on these steel toe boots, once again auctioning everything that I'm wearing. And you gotta check a little bit of that beautiful, majestic civilization there. See, big metropolis. That's my favorite skyscraper there, which you can see. Favorite skyscraper, Montreal metropolis. And see the bridge there, and that is the big metropolis, 2.5 million people, Hawk Island, Montreal aka Hawk Island. And now that's the pyramid there. My favorite skyscraper, and a little bit of that zoom. See, that is my favorite skyscraper, the pyramid. And hey, we build a lot of skyscrapers. We're gonna need to build more, but again, here, you know, just don't pollute. So back to the DRT, I'm gonna ask Uncle Carney, what are we gonna cut? What are we gonna cut the spending? The security, the police, RCMP, prisons, the healthcare. We're gonna have to reduce and cut, because just the same mathematical financial principles applies for an individual. An individual whose interest payments double in just 3 years, while even the salary, even if it increases 5, 10, 15%, even then one has to still cut and reduce. Maybe cut the Netflix, stop smoking. I don't smoke cigarettes myself, but it can be costly, I guess. Smoking cigarettes or cannabis is legal in Canada. So my last time I bought cannabis, I think it was 4 years ago. I still have some left over, imagine. So very, very rarely for me. But I do like to enjoy wine, but red wine with meals, but I can't really afford it. And I love my sweets, hazelnut spread, and wafers. You know, I'm a big fan of wafers, but I live on a austere, severe budget, and lost a lot of whatever because of Asperger's. I'm grateful. My rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, got food and coffee, and you know, lost a lot of friends. Friends with benefits only. From now on, pledge your allegiance, and friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, and friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, you know. Friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, and here I come. I love coming here, you know. I'm at home here, you know, like my second home, really, but it's not just mine, it's mine, yours, and please don't pollute, don't leave for years and years and years here. I've been cleaning inside the forest, and again, it takes the individual and the collective, for the environment. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange unit. The universal exchange unit. I asked Uncle Carney, worked in banking, as I make this declaration that the king is absent. Uncle Carney worked in banking, finance, so you make the decision. It's not sustainable. Our GDP did not double, only increased by 1 or 2%. You realize we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. Just mathematically, the financial mathematics behind it. Prices are supposed to increase again starting next week by big, here in Canada, Loblaws, Maxi, Walmart, declared, and in the US as well, that prices again are going to increase. With record-breaking food bank usage in the past 3.5 years, with this record interest payments on the debt, we are on the verge of a collapse, right? So I ask, what are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? What are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? What are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? What are we going to cut? And what are we going to reduce? So something has to be cut, and something has to be reduced. Something has to be cut, and something has to be reduced. So that's how we are here. This is the main road, so I suggest people stay on the main. See, there's 2 people there, one bike cyclist there. And if you don't know, because now it's windy and there's a risk of falling branches, as you see, branches everywhere. So be careful if you go in, and please don't pollute again. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, inside my DRT is of course integrated monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. The Europeans in the 90s, they destroyed their national central banks. The Germans, the Italians, the French, they destroyed their national central banks, and they created a common central bank, the ECB. So I asked, what are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? The spending. What are we going to cut? What are we going to reduce? Which, what? We're going to have to cut and reduce something, because it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So we're going to have to cut and reduce something, whatever that case may be. Whatever that case may be. You can argue all you want, but that is just a mathematical financial principle which applies, is applicable for the individual. If the case happens for an individual that the interest payments double or more than double, the individual has to also cut and reduce the spending, whether stop going out, cutting Netflix, stop smoking, stop spending money on these things you don't necessarily need, whatever. Stop, of course, whatever the case may be, and whatever other things which we are, and they go on that, and that's what they're doing, So it's something which they gotta be done. Something which gotta be done here, Just gotta be careful with upstairs, Allô? Soyez prudente, hein? Parlez-vous français? Soyez prudente parce que des fois il y a les branches qui tombent ici, hein. Comme vous voyez, là, il y a bien vous voyez ceux-là, là? Puis là, vu qu'il y a du vent, puis vous voyez des fois d'en haut, si vous entendez que ça craque, faites attention. Le plus que vous restez ici, le plus que vous êtes en risque.
Merci à toi.
Ça fait plaisir. Ben, c'est comme chez nous ici, c'est comme ma maison, fait que je connais la montagne, là. Ça fait que soyez prudente ici. Salut! Bye! So what I said in French is, they gotta be prudent, because there's branches falling, Hello. You guys gotta be careful because branches are falling here, eh?
What about ticks?
Hey, ticks, I'm not sure, but the branches, I pick them up sometimes and they fall. So careful, if you stay here, you're more at risk, especially now. So that's what I said in French. They're at risk, And it's a risk here, If they stay here, it's a risk because of falling branches. See, he's not that much of a risk because he's jogging. So his velocity, because he's running, he's not that much a risk. But my fellow aunties, they're of course more at risk because of that. Because I come here as my second home, and sometimes I put them on the side, from the side of falling branches, and there's no indication. See, they're all there. They're all been tossed over from the side. See, all that. There's proof, all that. Those are all branches which sometimes me in my videos, you see me, I toss them on the other side, see? So, especially now because it's windy, I'm telling that for their own from their own security, from their own risk. Because I lived it, I go and even in my videos, some of my videos, you see them crack and fall down. See, all that branches, eh? So you gotta watch it. Allô? Soyez prudents, les branches tombent d'en haut. Parlez-vous français? Oui. Fait que des fois, faites attention parce que vous voyez toutes ces branches-là sur le côté. Là. C'est moi des fois qui les tasse, puis j'ai vécu moi-même qui tombent. Ils ne sont pas tombés sur moi, là, mais le plus que vous restez ici, puis c'est le plus de danger. Vous êtes plus dans le danger. Bienvenue, là. C'est ces choses-là, bien sûr, qu'il faut faire attention. Parce que c'est comme chez nous ici. Là, fait que, il faut qu'ils fassent attention. Vous n'êtes pas ici. It's a danger zone, man. It's a danger zone here, you know. Because the branches fall. See, look at those. So back to the DRT, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we're gonna get on that go, you know. So branches fall there, and that's how we see. Look at that. That branch is about to crack there. See, that branch is about to fall. These branches all there. So the more you stay here, the more at risk you are. Basically is what I said in French. The more you stay here, in this side, the more you're at risk. The slower you move, the more risk you are here. So if you come, you know, you're in the wilderness. You gotta watch for falling branches. See all of this? You gotta watch it, you know. Unless I know that people know there, and if they know, you know, whatever the case may be, and that's what it is with that. So gotta be it on the go, and gotta do it on the love, man. You know, it's prudence. See, look at those branches. They fall, they crack, they go on the go with that, and that's how we're gonna get doing with the XYZ, and we're gonna get it on the love, man. See here, you see? Look at that branch. This one fell deep. Look at that one. That was cracked. So you can see there, they're about to fall here. Sometimes you see them dangling. Look, proof. See that one? See? That one's about to fall there. That one has to be taken. Look at that. See? It's dangling in nothing. That one, a wind comes, somebody passes. That's right on you, buddy. My cousins, my aunties, whoever the case may be. See that one? That one's about to just fall. It's standing on nothing. You notice? My vision is blurred a bit, but you can see there. See? See the branch? There's branches. Fall on your heads, man. See that one standing in nothing. That one just a little bit of wind and comes back to the DRT. It's collapsing. The branches are falling just like our public financial system, you know. So that's where we are, you know. So you gotta be careful, man. The more you stay here, the more you're at risk. Salut. Faites attention, des fois il y a des branches qui tombent ici, hein. Parlez-vous français? Hein?
Oui, mais tombez.
Okay, so I'm gonna say it in English. So see, there's branches there. See that branch there?
Oh yeah. It's about to fall.
So this branch here, so this is a risk. The more you stay here, the slower you move now that it's windy, because this is like my second home. So you're at risk, you know? It's for your own safety. Because I know this place, it's like my second home. And see here? Look at that branch. You see that branch? That one's loose.
Yikes.
That one's loose. You get wind. That one's about to fall soon.
Oh, yikes.
You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that branch is about to fall.
Yeah.
So,
Pay attention.
yeah, please, and be careful, be prudent with that, and watch the branch. This branch is about to fall. Juste faites attention parce qu'il y a des fois des branches.
Ouais, non, c'est vrai qu'il y a du vent aujourd'hui là, ouais.
There's wind, and that one's loose. It doesn't have any roots. And I witnessed it myself, and it fell right next to me. I come often here, so.
No, me too, but yeah, sometimes when it's a windy day, I've seen like branches, and I'm like, yeah.
Whoop, no.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's just a bit quiet. It's just
Oh, it's
high
got it.
energy, but
Yeah, high energy is good. It's just like I sneeze from the fur, you know. But I think them I'm okay. The poodles I'm okay.
Yeah, this one, because me, I get some allergy with some dogs, but
Some dogs, yeah, the
it's
thick
not-
long fur.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have much fur, so it's.
The longer they are, the worse it's for me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't lose a lot of hair. So.
Okay, then I think I'm good. Okay, that's what I wanted to let people know. See, look at this. See this branch?
Yeah.
This one fell from the side. So the more you stay, the more people stay here now. See that one?
Yeah.
You gotta let people know, man, because. Hey? Hello. Be careful, there's falling branches sometimes from above, eh? Now that it's windy, the more you stay here, the more you're at risk. Yeah. Bye bye. Gotta be prudent, man. You know, you got falling branches. See? They're loose. See that one also. It's a risk there. It's a risk, man. You go there, it's your risk, you know. Not falling branches, man. They're falling up, you know, from the sky, and there's no advisory, and that's why we're gonna go get it, the DRT. So I let people know as much as I can, you know. And we should put signs, because, you know, one of these days people are gonna. It's not a cry wolf situation. It's not a cry wolf, you know. Not a cry wolf situation, man. So back to the DRT, you know, the dead refugee tea. I got something in my eye also. I got something in my eye, So the DRT, see all those branches. Back to the DRT, the dead refusion theory, to get it on the go, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and we're gonna get it on the XYZ here. I think it's starting to rain. Oh yeah, it's starting to rain, but don't mind rain or not, whatever the case may be. We're gonna get on that prudent side. We're gonna finish discussing the DRT. I guess we're gonna put it on here, somewhere here. Let's get that backpack, and that's what we're gonna undo it with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing on the go, you know. So something which we gotta get on the go with that side of things, you know. So here we are, man. Here we're gonna get some prudence by the stairs. So back to the DRT, debt refusion theory, we're gonna have to implement. We're gonna have to take all the public and the private debt, because again we have to reduce something. So it integrates monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is, of course, the financial theory implemented in the European Union. You know, so we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, convert it, refuse it, all the public and the private debt, all of it, convert it into US dollars. All the public-private debt converted into US dollars, we're going to add it with the US dollars. That money is going to be initially the foundation for a new money supply of a new central bank, just like they did in the European Union, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be creating the UE, universal exchange rate. The universal exchange rate, we're going to get it on the go, you know, so that's what we're going to get doing. So the universal exchange unit, we're going to create it, of course, to get doing with that, you know. So that's what we're going to be creating, you know. It's got to get doing with that, and that's what we're going to get doing, man. So we're going to get it on the creation of the universal exchange unit. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, and that's what they're gonna be doing, you know. So they're gonna be doing it on like XYZ. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, and we're gonna of course refuse it, and that's what we're gonna be doing. Gonna doing on the love, man. Get doing on the now, you know. So gonna get doing on the XYZ, and here we got a little bit of that XYZ things, man. Children are happy, they're happy, joyous, and that's what we're gonna get doing, you know, to get it on the now side. So doing a little bit of that spark, you know. That's some beautiful tulips, and That's Hawk Island, Montreal, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And so we're gonna get doing with that, you know. So here we are on the XYZ, and here we are. That's what we're gonna get doing. So we're gonna take all the public-private debt, and we're gonna convert it into US dollars, and that's what we're gonna get doing with the XYZ. And that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do it, you know. So something which we gotta do with that here. I like that red. Without the E, that's me. Without the E, that's me. Without the E, that's me, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna go hydration and gonna get it on the go. So the DRT, debt fusion theory, for the creation of the UE, and so we're gonna get doing with that. Oh yeah, all the public-private debt, we're gonna take it all, refuse it, convert it into US dollars. So here we go. Actually, I can change here. I guess that will be proficient. And while I've stretched a little bit and discuss the DRT, debt fusion theory. So it integrates monetary integration here. This is perfect to discuss it here because of the echo. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, the DRT, debt fusion theory. We're going to take all the public and the private debt. That debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All the Canadian public and private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All the public and private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with the United States. Because we have to implement the DRT simultaneously. For both Canada and the United States, we have to implement the DRT, debt fusion theory, simultaneously with the United States, because Canada and the United States were in a similar precarious financial situation. So all the public and the private debt, all that debt of Canada, my $10,000 to the RBC included, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All the debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with the United States dollars, and of course, we're going to add it together. We're going to convert all the public and the private debt together, all of it, including my 10,000. We're going to add it up, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Our public private debt of Canada, we're going to add it with the United States dollar. We're going to create a new currency called the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The UE, the U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange is going to have the value of the US dollar. That is going to be the universal exchange. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10% maximum. It's going to not be able to be more than 10% after that. So there's going to be 10% interest rates on all loans thereafter, and all that money, of course, all the public and the private debt, all that money, we're going to create this new central bank. Canada joined the United States. My DRT, which integrates in my theory, is integrated the MIT, not to be confused with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but of course inside my debt fusion theory is integrated with monetary integration theory. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, and all the public and the private debt is going to be financing this new currency, which we're going to call the U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. Universal exchange, we're going to have a 10% interest rate of 10%, and that's what we're going to be doing on that. And we're going to be creating this universal exchange unit. This universal exchange unit, we're going to create the universal exchange unit, the UE, and that money, of course, we're going to rebuild the infrastructure of the North American Collectif, build more hydroelectric dams, build a collective North American implementation, and of course we're going to be implementing the DRT for lots of public and private good. We're going to mass finance citizens to work out, we're going to mass finance citizens to work out, we're going to mass finance citizens to trade, we're going to mass finance the 44, building the 44, constructing, building the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. And of course, we're going to be mass finance citizens tourism as well, because it does great good for mental health. It certainly helped me when I traversed Canada coast to coast in 2017, and that event really changed my whole life around in 2017. And we're going to build those 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, and we're going to mass finance the complementary covenant and cooperative institutions the Dragon Army, aka North American Integrated SSD, Legion Security Service and Defense Legion. And of course, we're going to create the North American Integrated Dance, aka the Dancing Goddess Army, for environmental education and action, for environmental education and action, for dancing, and we're gonna get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the SSD, and of course we're gonna manage finance the implementation of the Operation Northern Scorpio parallel to the implementation of my total mobile defense theory, the TMDT. When we add an S to the 4-letter acronym, that means that my theory is put into practice for our system, so we're going to implement that, and of course we're going to be doing lots of good for the public, and we're going to set an interest rate level on the UE on all loans thereafter by this new bank is going to be 10% only. It's not going to be able to be more than 10%, so 10% is going to be the new maximum interest. It could be below 10%, 3.33, 7.18, 4.18, 9.3, 6.1, or whatever, 1.11, whatever the case may be, is going to be below 10%. So that is the new financial world order for the rehabilitation of the North American Collective. We're going to have to implement the DRT, Debt Refusion Theory, Debt Refusion T theory, for the creation of the UE, U dot universal exchange unit, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the universal exchange unit is going to have, of course, the implementation, and we have to get a public-private partnership. My brother Scorpio citizen Bill Gates, let's rock and roll for the DRT. Show legions, we're going to do lots of good, build those 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war across the North American Collective, and we're going to do lots of good, rebuild the infrastructure, the aqueducts, the sewers, and we're going to do lots of good with that, and we're going to rock and roll with that, and that's where we're going to be able to do lots of good. So the DRT, Debt Refusion Theory, pledge your allegiance to our family. That's the rock and roll song. As I'm going to get a little bit of that hydration now. Let's go get a little bit of that hydration and go out, I guess. Yes, we can go out in the rain, and after that, imagine all the engineering, the work to be done here, to have, of course, a little bit of that water, to have all the work, all the labor done to have this water here upstairs on the mountain. Lots of work, eh? All the brains, all the muscle, just to have water here, of course. Engineering, man. Brains and muscle to engineer, to build it up. I guess you had to move upwards somehow. The pipes underneath, how they got through the mountain, and to have running water here. It's quite an engineering to bring the water atop the mountain, the water fountain, eh? And all the system here atop the mountain. It's quite something. All the public works, you know? Public works, man. So it's something which you got a lot of bit of brains and muscle, you know, to get it on the go, and that's how we gotta get it doing for the dad, and gonna get it on now, man. Let's go. Anyways, that's where we are here, and we're at the top here of the mountain, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And here we are, man, on the go and on the now, and this is what we have here, you know. Bit of good echoes, man. Kind of good for rock and roll with that, and that's what we got. It's a beautiful place here, also green, nice green cut, green. I love the green, you know. Kind of feels a bit on the fresh. So rock and roll songs, and put it on the go here now, and gonna put it on the loose, and here gotta put that hoodie on and see if we got it. I got that hoodie. Gotta go, man. Now gonna see if we got a little bit of that mathematics of rain. Well, there's a mathematics of rain, of course, to quantify how much rain falls, I guess, by square centimeters, and I guess I gotta put the camera close by here now because it is starting to rain. I come here all to rain, shine. Here's the headquarters of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, and you know we're gonna get that cadence. And I guess I got $1. Gonna have to check my bank account because I'm not gonna buy coffee here because it's pricey. Coffee here is pricey, so on a budget. I think the cheapest is like $3. If I could afford it, I wouldn't, but I really tight budget now, you know, so that is really the tight budget which I'm on now, so that's how we gotta get doing with that, and gonna get it on the go, man, you know, rock and roll, you know, 24/7, you know, for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and the firefighters, plumbers, and electricians, and here we are. Atop the mountain, my second home is not just my second home, it's not just mine. And please, the recycling has to go here because I've been checking the garbage, and you know, a lot of the things do not go in the garbage, eh? A lot of the things do not go in the garbage, they go in the recycling. And I gotta give a shout out, you know, to the public workers. Public workers. Put a little bit of that. Put a little bit of tulips. Nice tulips, man. Nice tulips here. And here we need a little bit of that USA for the 63 and the dragon flag. Rainbow dragon flag and the priestess of the goddess flag here. But I kind of love what they do with the tulips. Every year is kind of different, eh? This last year it was more colorful, but now it seems to be singular in terms of there's two colors, you know? Two colors with it. Here we are. Last time it was more colors on the side, you know, it was more colorful if you check my past video from last spring, summer, and autumn. But now it's like two colors. Kind of nice. I guess it changes every year or they bring it back sometimes, but kind of like the choice of the tulips. Last year was different. Last year it was yellow flowers there instead of tulips. But kind of nice. So every year is kind of different, but I love them nonetheless. Quite feel the nice flowers, and I love flowers with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing, man. Gonna get on that rock and roll. Here we are, atop my second home. The mountain, Mount Royal, is not just my second home, but it's where I come and I enjoy coming. And here's the greatest city, Hawk Island, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And so we're gonna get doing some of that rock and roll for the 63, for the butchers, plumbers, nurses, doctors, electricians, firefighters, all those involved in the production, distribution of food. You see a little bit of information here, but I lived here in a past life. Sometimes I was born a man, a woman, woman, man. You get that 50-50 now, and that's my favorite skyscraper there, the pyramid. Here we are, Hawk Island, Montreal. For the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors of the 63, and those, of course, involved in the production, distribution of food, and the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, and those, of course, involved, you know, now across the North American Collective, the truckers, the butchers, the bakers, the plumbers, the electricians, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, those changing diapers in the daycares, changing some of those diapers in the daycares. They gotta get on that salute and gotta get it for the mountains. I guess Mount Saint Hilaire or Mount Saint Bruno. I'm not sure if somebody knows exactly. Maybe my fellow citizens, cousins here of the North American Collective, pledge your allegiance, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the firefighters. Somebody gotta sing that rock and roll for the Popo 5-0. I guess that'd be me. Ain't nobody perfect. And of course, I also rock and roll for my brothers and sisters who do their criminal rehabilitation. Eh? I gotta rock and roll for both those who change their life, turn their life around, you know, do their justice and take their life, turn their life around, you know what I mean? Gotta sing for the firefighters, rock and roll, rap. There's some... I guess I gotta rock and roll and rap, you know? I'll be a cursing rap for the police. I'll be the cursing rap for the police. I'll be the cursing rap. Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, man. Ah, feels good. Anyways, for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, LOV, the nurses, the daycare workers, changing diapers, public workers, changing some aqueducts, firefighters, LOV, those who go up and down, the cranes, construction workers, those making some cheeseburgers, hamburgers, and the fast food workers. Send them some loving, man. Workers of the North American Collective. Gonna switch to the French. Let's go. En français, on est rendu sur la montagne. On continue la marche d'entraînement. La marche d'entraînement sur la montagne à Montréal, ma deuxième maison. Un petit peu de comédie, mais je suis artiste aussi, mais j'ai l'Asperger's. Mais tu sais, des fois, j'ai comme une petite comédie que je fais de moi-même, je ris de moi-même, puis de mon intensité, je veux dire, de ma concentration, de mon hypervigilance aussi, mon propre trauma, j'imagine, mes propres cicatrices, mais mon stress financier lequel je vis maintenant, mon seul stress est financier, mais je dois dire que j'adore ces fleurs-là. Vous avez fait l'année passée, c'était un autre choix, mais là, c'est la même couleur, bien sûr, que c'est produit ici. Fait que vous avez fait un bon choix d'un bout à l'autre. Je vois, c'est la même couleur, c'est des tulipes. Fait que ça a fait un bon engouement, là, comment ça fait. L'année passée, c'était plus de variété, là, il y avait plus de couleurs, mais je trouve ça quand même une symétrie quand même assez belle, là. Le contraste de bleu, pas des bleus, mais je veux dire le vert, le blanc, puis c'est comme un peu de rose foncé, là, comme quasiment rouge, là, mais c'est pas vraiment rouge. Là, c'est beau là, quand même. Je trouve ça, j'apprécie le travail. Tu sais. J'apprécie le travail. Tu sais. J'apprécie ce travail. Fait que c'est bien sûr un beau travail avec des tulipes. Là. Elles sont belles, je trouve. Là. C'est des choses là qui ont fait, bien sûr. Mais c'est des choses comme ça, bien sûr, qui ont fait, mais c'est des choses comme ça. Hein. Ici, c'est la montagne. Mais je sais pas. C'est des choses comme ça, ici. Des choses comme ça ici qui se passent. Hein, ici, qui sont ici, tu sais, sur la montagne, mais je sais pas. Fait que c'est des choses comme ça, tu sais, qu'on a, bien sûr. Fait que... Bon, je vais discuter un peu, puis je vais dire ma gratitude, même si je vis un stress financier, je vais commencer un petit peu avec la gratitude, puis je dois saluer les travailleurs en construction, les plombiers, les bouchers dans les boucheries, mes tantes, ma tante, mes cousines de la belle province, puis du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, tous ceux qui font dans la boulangerie, tu sais, du pain, puis c'est des choses comme ça, moi-même aussi, puis c'est des choses, bien sûr, que je dois faire de cette théorie, bien sûr, que, ici, tu sais, mais je mets en pratique, je mets en pratique la théorie, je veux dire que j'encourage les gens à faire l'entraînement physique, là. Puis bien sûr, c'est quelque chose, c'est mon intérêt spécial, parallèlement avec la géopolitique. Vous savez qu'à cause de cette condition de neurodivergence que je vis avec, 24 sur 24, c'est l'Asperger's. Encore une fois, c'est pas une maladie mentale, c'est une condition de neurodivergence. Moi-même, en tant qu'individu, je fais partie de cette petite communauté de moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage, c'est 0,44% des gens. Les Aspi, nous, l'Asperger, c'est pas une maladie mentale, premièrement. Puis c'est important parce qu'il y a encore de confusion là-dessus, là, puis beaucoup de gens qui pensent que c'est une maladie mentale. C'est pas ça. C'est que notre cerveau, il est différent. Il y a des mutations. Fait que ces mutations-là, dans le cerveau, tu sais, c'est des mutations. Là. Ces mutations-là qui se produisent à cause de la génétique ou de la biologie, c'est un peu les deux, mais sinon un plus que l'autre, là, font que on a certaines caractéristiques qui sont un peu hors normes, sont un peu bizarres, sont un peu étranges. Tu sais, dans la communication non verbale, par exemple, ou dans la manière qu'on communique, la manière qu'on s'exprime. Des fois, on peut utiliser des mots trop intellectuels, un peu philosophiques, académiques, là, plus sophistiqués, tu sais. Tant que ça ne requiert pas ces choses-là, tu sais, c'est des fois une complexité qui ne sert à rien, tu sais, pour en dire en bon québécois, là, ça sert à rien, mais c'est parce que notre cerveau, il a ses mutations, fait que les caractéristiques, comment que nous, on voit le monde vis-à-vis à la plupart des citoyens, les 99,56%, on voit le monde différemment. On voit le monde différemment. Fait qu'en voyant le monde différemment, on a des intérêts spéciaux. Mais quand même, on peut être super concentré, super dedans, super intense. Quand on fait les choses, notre intérêt spéciaux, nos intérêts, qu'on fait les intérêts qu'on a au quotidien. Fait que ces intérêts-là, mais ils peuvent prendre toute notre, comme quasiment notre routine puis notre rituel au quotidien se trouve, et une belle petite fleur blanche, se trouve autour de ses intérêts. Se tourne autour de ses intérêts, tu sais. Autour de ses intérêts. Puis moi-même, ma Trinité, la Sainte Trinité, pour moi, c'est la géopolitique. Même ce matin, j'ai dit, je vais faire juste 15 minutes de géopolitique, d'analyse et de théorie en regardant les nouvelles à la télé, de l'émission Les Nouvelles de la télévision. Là. Puis, ça a passé 1 heure, après 1 heure, j'ai dit 2, puis après 2 heures et 44 minutes. J'allais partir de chez nous à 7 heures le matin de bonne heure. Fait que je suis parti à 9h44. Fait que c'est ça. Parce que ça peut être tellement intense, puis on peut être tellement concentré dans ces choses-là qu'on néglige d'autres choses, tu sais. C'est ça le problème, peut revenir. Puis des fois, tu sais, les choses, les caractéristiques, parce que c'est pas des symptômes, encore une fois. Les symptômes, c'est pour une maladie mentale. Pour une maladie telle qu'elle, ou pas nécessairement de la santé du cerveau ou de la mentale, là, mais ça peut être une autre chose. Fait que ces choses-là qui se passent vis-à-vis le social, moi-même j'ai perdu ben des amis. Hein. Maintenant, juste des amis avec bénéfice. Je suis ouvert pour les affaires, le plaisir et l'amour. L'amour peut être soit un noir, blanc, homme, femme, parce que je suis pansexuel, je fais partie de la communauté LGBTQ. Je fais partie de la communauté LGBTQ. Fait que il faut que vous soyez adulte, par exemple. Il faut que vous soyez adulte, sinon, vous envoie vous promener. Je vous envoie vous promener bien vite, puis retourner quand vous allez avoir 18. C'est comme acheter de la liqueur, comme acheter de l'alcool, comme quand vous achetez la cigarette ou le cannabis, c'est légal depuis 2019 au Canada. Là. Fait que quand vous allez à SQDC, Société québécoise du cannabis, c'est la même procédure que je vais mettre pour vous venez me faire l'amour, ça va y avoir de l'âge, tu sais. Fait que c'est des choses comme ça. Et bien sûr, c'est des choses qu'il faut qu'on soit dans ce principe, bien sûr, dans ce principe de la fonction où qu'on est rendu, tu sais. Fait que c'est des choses comme ça qu'il faut qu'on ait nous-mêmes dans cette dédication, de la compréhension de l'Asperger. C'est notre cerveau est différent. Fait que nous, des fois, dans certaines choses, on peut être direct, peut offenser, mais c'est pas par volonté qu'on veut offenser, c'est parce que des fois on est direct de la manière qu'on s'exprime dans certaines choses. Hein? Puis on peut avoir des caractéristiques comme s'approcher trop proche des gens quand on discute. Dans la discussion, là, le bruit de l'espace personnel, là, comme on peut s'approcher à 2-3 pouces, 3 pouces, 4, 5 pouces, 7 pouces, là, c'est proche du visage. Fait que ça peut intimider, ça peut causer une certaine angoisse, là, ça peut causer un petit malheur, là, une petite inquiétude, là, je veux dire. Là. Fait que c'est pas ça, c'est des caractéristiques de l'Asperger's. On n'est pas beaucoup dans le monde, il y en a moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage, c'est 0,44% des citoyens du monde. De l'Amérique du Nord, je parle des statistiques plutôt, parce que je suis un philosophe, artiste et analyste théoricien en géopolitique indépendant de l'Amérique du Nord, là. C'est ça que je fais au quotidien, puis mes protocoles d'initiative sont pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Je suis québécois moi-même, Canadien-Québécois, Québécois-Canadien, Canadien-Québécois, Nord-Américain aussi, parce qu'on constitue un collectif de civilisation. C'est comme je dis là, que je vais arrêter avec l'Asperger, parce que vous savez un peu c'est quoi, puis sinon, ben, c'est juste le Google puis, ou le Bing 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 sur Microsoft, sur Internet, vous pouvez voir c'est quoi l'Asperger, c'est quoi les caractéristiques, puis s'il vous plaît, s'ils disent que c'est une maladie, non, pas une maladie, le cerveau, il y a des mutations. L'Asperger, il y a des mutations dans le cerveau. Fait que ces mutations-là, ils font que j'ai de la misère dans certaines choses. Et faites attention ici, vous voyez comme ces branches-là, là, ils viennent tomber d'en haut. Ils sont à veille de tomber, ces branches-là. Fait qu'il faut que... Vous voyez, là, t'sais. Ça, j'avais averti les gens tantôt dans la vidéo depuis des années, là, mais depuis que c'est plus... Ces branches-là, ils sont en train de tomber. Fait que faites attention, soyez prudents ici dans la forêt. Le plus de temps que vous restez dans la forêt ici, et le moins vite, si vous allez plus vite, vous êtes en accélération. Là. Si vous allez plus vite, vous avez moins à risque. Vous êtes moins à risque si vous allez plus vite. Ouais, vous voyez, c'est ça. Ça, c'était dans le verglas, mais c'est ça. Ça devrait être en anglais puis en français qu'on met ça, le bénévolat. Je vais faire le bénévolat pour la mettre, là, parce qu'il y en a bien des places que les branches tombent encore, surtout quand il y a, bien sûr, du vent. Du vent, là. Fait que quand il vente, ben, on est en danger, là, tu sais. Fait que faites attention. Ben, c'est comme ma deuxième maison ici chez nous, fait que je connais mais je suis pas aimeur, puis je dois moi-même faire ma diligence, puis être prudent, tu sais. Prudent, là, la prudence, comme... Et on dirait un cerf. On dirait les cornes d'un cerf. C'est beau quand même. Fait que, pour finir avec l'Asperger, encore une fois, non, c'est pas une maladie mentale. C'est pas une maladie, c'est une condition de neurodivergence. J'ai mes difficultés, les ASPI, on fait partie de cette petite minorité de 0,44%. Oui, dans certaines choses, je suis médiocre comme ça. Je peux moi-même avoir du soutien, du support, de la compréhension. Mais c'est sûr que dans certaines choses, je suis pas apte. On n'est pas bon dans les choses sociales, dans la compréhension. Des fois, dans la discussion, là, on discute, on parle un peu étrange, bizarre, la communication qu'on parle. Mais quand ça vient au sujet, là, qu'est-ce qu'on appelle nos intérêts spéciaux? Moi, ma trinité, c'est la géopolitique, le sport, l'entraînement physique, soit la danse, et bien sûr, le rock'n'roll. J'en fais au quotidien, du rock'n'roll, la géopolitique, l'entraînement physique. On a des routines, fait que ces routines-là, par exemple, on peut avoir de l'intensité, on peut être intense, avoir l'intensité. On avait un phare, là, comme un phare, là. Une intensité, tu sais. Faire de l'entraînement physique, là. On peut être super intense, super concentré, super dedans quand on fait ces choses, quand on travaille ou on étudie dans nos intérêts spéciaux. Dans nos intérêts spéciaux. C'est comme un fort, là. Dans nos intérêts spéciaux. Puis ça, moi, c'est la géopolitique. Comme des fois, je me perds, je passe des heures par jour à faire ça. Puis ça, je fais de l'entraînement physique. Puis en même temps, un petit peu de rock'n'roll. Ben, pas mal de rock'n'roll par jour. On compose des chansons en mode libre aussi, là. Puis ben des chansons. Ça fait ben des années que je travaille en tant qu'artiste, athlète, philosophe, analyste et théoricien en géopolitique. Puis j'ai un côté mystique, là, spirituel, mais j'ai plus de questions que de réponses. Mais j'y crois à la réincarnation. Mais moi-même, des fois, j'étais né homme, femme, homme. Fait que maintenant, le 22 mai, ça balance un peu. Ça fait que je suis androgyne, 50-50. Messieurs, madame, tu sais. 50-50. Messieurs, madame, 50-50. Messieurs, madame, 50-50. Fait que je dois faire de ces choses que je dois faire. Fait que c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je le fasse moi-même, mais c'est des choses que je dois faire. Bon, c'est des choses que je dois toujours faire un effort pour bâtir des ponts avec la majorité des citoyens qui sont les neurotypiques, les 99,56%, la vaste majorité des gens, vous êtes dans la catégorie des neurotypiques. Moi, en tant qu'Asperger, ASPI, ben, je suis tombé à cause de cette mutation des cerveaux que chez les Asperger, il y a ces mutations de cerveau. Fait que ça fait que on a certaines caractéristiques qui peuvent être mal interprétées comme une maladie mentale. Moi-même, j'aime pas la violence. J'aime pas la violence. J'ai vécu mon trompe. Je suis hyper vigilant. Je suis en hypervigilance. J'étais attaqué par surprise. Je suis tombé, je te connais ma tête. J'ai le bras disloqué. Puis j'étais à l'hôpital juif, puis général juif de Montréal. Ils m'ont replacé le bras droit, comme craqué, là, clac. J'étais mis comme sur des médicaments. J'étais comme dans un coma là, pendant un couple de jours. Puis j'ai plein de cicatrices. Salutations aux pompiers. Amour aux pompiers, quelqu'un fait de leur du bon amour, on donne leur un massage, quelque chose. Puis vous voyez, l'Asperger, ben nous, on est bizarre un peu dans ce côté-là, parce que bien des gens ils pensent qu'on n'a pas de compassion, qu'on n'a pas de l'empathie. Ben, pas ça. C'est pas qu'on n'a pas de l'empathie ou de la compassion. On a bien de la compassion, bien de l'empathie, mais la compassion, on la montre par des actions en place de, tu sais, la consolation verbale. Là, tu sais, des fois, vous voyez dans mes vidéos, tu sais, quelqu'un dit « je suis désolé pour toi », puis je dis ben, « pourquoi vous êtes désolé? Vous n'êtes pas à être désolé que je suis en crise financière, que j'ai un stress financier, c'est pas votre faute. » Moi, si j'aurais été dans une position des finances, ben, à place de dire quelque chose, ben, je vais offrir quelqu'un, je vais pas dire ben, « je m'excuse pour toi », je vais t'offrir un emploi, je vais t'offrir quelque chose qui va pouvoir soulager ta douleur, ton malheur, que ça soit. Là. Tu sais, c'est ça, que notre cerveau il est différent. C'est là que tu vois ces différences-là de comment on agit, comment on parle, comment on communique. Tu sais, c'est comme... C'est ça. Tu sais, maintenant, j'entends les pompiers, tu sais, peut-être il y a une urgence, puis peut-être ils vont combattre un feu là, pendant des heures, là. S'ils combattent le feu pendant des heures, mais après ça, il va falloir qu'il y ait du soulagement, mais quelqu'un va-tu leur donner un bon massage avec de la crème? Tu sais, c'est un service, tu sais. Puis moi, je fais des services, mais encore une fois, avec cette neurodivergence, puis j'ai eu bien de l'emploi que j'ai bien aimé, j'ai perdu bien de l'emploi. J'ai perdu bien de l'emploi. Ben de l'emploi, j'ai perdu, là. À cause de l'Asperger, je suis en crise financière, mais je dois dire ma gratitude, tu sais. J'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité, j'ai du café, j'ai du thé, puis c'est des choses comme ça, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je fasse moi-même dans cette envergure, bien sûr, qu'il soit de cette descendance, puis qu'il soit à l'approche de faire tout ce qu'on doit faire dans cette circonstance où qu'on est rendu aujourd'hui le 22 mai. Vous pouvez voir des belles fleurs. Fait que c'est des choses qui peuvent arriver. Hein. Eh bien, c'est des choses ici qu'on aille de cette communication non-verbale, puis communication étrange, puis bien sûr dans cette conversation ici qu'on est rendu ici, dans ce monde où qu'on est rendu maintenant, tu sais, dans le physique. Eh bien, salutations, amour, et compréhension, puis bien sûr compassion par action, c'est comme ça que je le démontre, c'est comme ça que je veux moi aussi. Je suis hyper vigilant, mais j'ai prévu encore. Je retourne à ce qui est le plus important. Là. C'est moi en tant qu'analyste et théoricien en géopolitique. Bien sûr, en 2019, en octobre, je reviens à ce point de vue, à ce point dans ma démarche, mon travail, ce que j'ai prévu, bien, la situation actuelle qui se déroule en ce moment en 2019. En 2019. J'ai prévu cette situation, bien sûr, en 2019. En 2019, hein, en octobre-novembre, j'ai prévu la situation qui se déroule en ce moment. Je l'ai prévu en 2019. À cause, et dû au fait, bien sûr, c'était quand même mon analyse et mes théories un peu académiques, intellectuelles, philosophiques, là, plus dans le sophistiqué un peu, avec des détails, mais, pour faire un résumé, c'est que j'ai conclu qu'à cause que bien des régions, des pays, des nations-États n'ont pas été capables de résoudre leurs conflits du 20e siècle, surtout de la guerre froide, puis je spécialise dans la géopolitique du 20e siècle, surtout de la période de la guerre froide, et bien sûr le présent. Parce que c'est mes théories philosophiques et analytiques. Je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique indépendant. Et à cause de l'Asperger's, je suis ASPI, fait que c'est mon intérêt spécial, aussi connu comme obsessif, mais dire obsessif, vous voyez, c'est pour ça que j'avertis les gens tantôt. Ça, là, cette branche-là, vous voyez, tenait à rien dessus. Il n'y avait pas de solide, celle-là aussi. Fait que c'est pour ça. C'est pour ça que ça peut tomber s'il y a du vent, là, ça peut quelqu'un qui vient. C'est pour ça que j'avertis dans mes vidéos les gens. Bon, fait comme ça, j'avertis en 2019 aussi, en octobre, en novembre, j'avertissais, j'ai sonné l'alarme, je dis, ben, une conflagration, une troisième guerre mondiale s'en vient. Puis regardez qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. Qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant? Et bien sûr, qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant? Ben, c'est bien sûr... Ils sont venus par ici, j'allais les avertir des branches, mais je pense qu'ils retournent vers le chemin principal. S'ils retournent vers le chemin principal, c'est mieux. Parce que s'il n'y a plus de danger, c'est plus de danger ici. Ben c'est ça, j'ai conclu en 2019, en octobre. Puis là, vous voyez, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Tantôt, je parlais en anglais. Ben il y a ces conflits en Ukraine et la Russie qui ont recommencé, Israël puis Hamas. Puis bien sûr, potentiellement, sur l'horizon de Taïwan puis la Chine. Puis paradoxe, là, que je dois discuter bien en profondeur, le paradoxe de la géopolitique, c'est bien sûr de la géopolitique réelle, bien sûr, c'est ce paradoxe du réarmement, là. Réarmement, ça veut dire qu'ils investissent plus dans leur militaire. Le Japon, c'est un tabou, ça, pour l'Est, parce que le Japon, c'était parallèlement impérialiste, militariste. Dans le 20e siècle, tu sais, leur histoire impérialiste, d'expansionniste, d'impérialisme expansionniste, leur politique d'expansionnisme impérialiste, qui ont causé bien des guerres. La Chine, ils avaient conquis la Mandchourie, beaucoup de la Chine, là, ben du territoire. La Chine, ils avaient conquis les années 30. 40, le Japon. C'était un empire, le Japon. Au 20e siècle, c'est un empire. Hein, puis ils ont attaqué même les États-Unis par surprise. Fait qu'il y a un réarmement. Ce tabou, il a été brisé, ce tabou. Ben, comme le tabou des Allemands. L'Allemagne aussi, il y a un réarmement. Il y a un réinvestissement militaire chez les Allemands. Fait un autre tabou qui vient d'être brisé. Un bris de tabou. Les Allemands. Pensez-vous, là, 5-10 ans, vous avez vu le réarmement de l'Allemagne, vous avez dit, ah non, à cause de la Première Guerre, Deuxième Guerre mondiale, à cause de ce tabou de l'Occident que les Allemands y ont fait, puis les ententes après la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, qu'il n'y ait pas de réarmement de l'Allemagne, il s'est brisé à cause de l'invasion de la Russie et l'Ukraine, l'invasion de l'Ukraine par la Russie. Puis les Russes, la Russie, ont développé des armes quand même. Wow! Les missiles intercontinentaux qui peuvent traverser des kilomètres, plus que 10 500 kilomètres, hein, peuvent se rendre jusqu'ici, jusqu'à Montréal, puis jusqu'au territoire du Canada. Ça peut aller jusqu'à Manitoba, Saskatchewan. Hein. Ça dépend de quel coin, de l'Est ou de l'Ouest, là, parce que la Russie, ben, c'est le pays le plus de superficie, là, le plus grand, pas de population, je parle, par la population, mais par la superficie. Fait que bon, en faisant un petit résumé là-dessus, ben, j'avais prévu ça en 2019, en octobre. Mais même que j'ai prévu ça, puis je suis pour la guerre mondiale, puis je connais leur idéologie, leur conflit, leur entente, etc., je suis québécois, canadien, nord-américain. Mes principes, protocoles, mes initiatives sont pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Puis encore une fois, je dis à nos chefs, puis à mon oncle, mes oncles Legault puis mon oncle Carney, ben, notre intérêt fondamental principalement, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations possibles avec les États-Unis. En géopolitique, le roi Charles, ben, le roi est absent. Là. Le roi est absent, c'est le temps pour la République, ben, c'est le temps pour la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, que je vais discuter bientôt. Parce que c'est juste, principalement, là, notre intérêt fondamental, c'est ça. Nous, les Canadiens québécois, Canadiens, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations possibles avec les États-Unis. Il n'y a pas d'autre. Il n'y a pas oui et non, peut-être, oui et non, peut-être. C'est ça, tu sais. C'est ça. C'est pas non, c'est pas peut-être, c'est oui. 100% là-dessus, c'est oui, 100% là-dessus. Fait que c'est des choses comme ça qu'il faut qu'on vive avec. C'est ces choses avec lesquelles il faut qu'on vive. Cette réalité géopolitique, il n'y a pas de non, peut-être. Il n'y a pas de peut-être et non. Ou non. Il n'y a pas de non ou peut-être. C'est oui, oui, oui. C'est comme le chiffre, tu sais, le symbole pi, là. Le symbole pi. Tu sais, le pi, symbole pi, là. Pi en mathématiques. Le symbole pi qui signifie, pour la circonférence puis le diamètre d'un cercle, la proportion, là, c'est 3.1415, puis ça continue jusqu'à l'infinitum. Fait on fait 3.1416. 3.1416, c'est le symbole pi mathématique pour faire le calcul avec. Ça ne change jamais, c'est constant, ça. C'est constant. C'est constant. Fait que constamment, ces choses-là, en géopolitique, c'est ça. Il n'y a pas d'autres éléments qui peuvent diverger de cette constance. Tu sais, on peut pas, il n'y a pas une variation, ça. Il n'y a pas de non ou peut-être. Il n'y a pas de peut-être ou non. C'est toujours constamment, ça. C'est toujours constamment. C'est constant, ça. C'est comme le chiffre pi. Fait que c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on fasse. Parce qu'en géopolitique, notre intérêt fondamental, principal, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, financières, sociales, économiques, de politique, de la géopolitique, de la culture, de la défense, de la sécurité, des affaires. En première place, d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis en politique, en diplomatie, en économie, en social, dans la défense nationale, dans la sécurité, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. Il n'y a pas de peut-être ou non là-dessus, dans ce point. Fondamentalement, principalement, nous, là, le Québec, le Canada, Québec, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations possibles en défense, en sécurité, en économie, en sécurité, en liberté, en prospérité, en culture, sur tous les points avec les États-Unis. 85% de nos exportations s'en vont sur le marché américain. C'est les États-Unis qui achètent 85% de nos biens. Là. C'est ça la guerre commerciale. Là. Les tarifs, c'est une erreur par mon grand-père Donald Trump. Depuis 2018, je fais appel à Donald Trump pour me combattre sur le combat de boxe sur la frontière du Canada et des États-Unis, pour qu'on construise le plus grand colisée, aréna sportif, pour du sportisme perpetuité 24 sur 24 sur la frontière du Canada et des États-Unis, avec le temple de la déesse oubliée. Fait que bien sûr, là, il faut que je discute de la TRD, parce qu'en parlant de ces problèmes qui existent aujourd'hui, financiers, puis des finances, puis de l'économie, ben des gens sont endettés, puis il y a un surendettement. L'année passée, un report, puis dans la couple de semaines, il y a un autre rapport qui est sorti que la majorité des citoyens du Canada ainsi que des États-Unis, il y a un record des cartes de crédit surendettement. Parallèlement à ce surendettement, il y a le coût de la vie qui augmente, puis les salaires n'augmentent pas. Fait que c'est ça le problème principalement, puis la situation de la géopolitique, de ce réarmement paradoxe, tabou brisé par le Japon dans l'Est, tabou brisé par l'Allemagne dans l'Ouest. Le réarmement de l'Allemagne, ça a été une inquiétude après la Première Guerre mondiale, puis après la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, puis il y a eu cette entente quand même. Bon, la TRD maintenant, je vous l'explique, pour le collectif de l'Amérique pour le collectif nord-américain, parce qu'ici, nous, le Québec, le Canada, les États-Unis, on constitue ce que j'appelle un grand collectif de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord, mais nous, on est dans le Nord, les États-Unis sont dans le Sud. Fait que ce grand collectif de la civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord, on le fait. Fait que ce grand collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, on le fait. Fait que dans ce grand collectif, on a fait le grand compromis de la langue, du français, bien sûr. On continue à faire ce grand compromis linguistique pour qu'on ait la continuité de la paix et de l'harmonie dans ce grand collectif de civilisation. Et dans ce grand collectif de civilisation, on a fait ce grand compromis du français, qu'on continue d'avoir la paix et l'harmonie dans ce grand compromis. Et bien sûr, on continue à le faire par toutes les démarches possibles. Mais moi-même, je dois le faire. Si moi, je ne le fais pas en tant qu'individu, tu sais, je dois le faire en tant qu'individu, comme je le fais par le nettoyage, du recyclage et des choses de recyclage que je dois le faire. Mais je peux en parler de l'environnement si moi, je ne prends pas l'action individuelle pour rajouter au positif collectif, tu sais. Je peux en rester en théorie, rester chez nous sur une chaise juste en faisant de la théorie, si je ne le mets pas en pratique. Tout ça, la TRD, je vous l'explique, c'est la théorie qui va nous sauver de ce qu'on est rendu maintenant, qu'on est rendu à un point de crise financière. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, je vous l'explique le plus simplement possible, sans utiliser trop de mots académiques, intellectuels, sophistiqués. On est rendu l'année passée qu'on a payé 46,5 milliards d'intérêts sur la dette. Fait que c'est un intérêt sur la dette, bien sûr. Cet intérêt sur la dette, c'était Puis ça a plus que doublé à cause de la coronavirus. Et moi-même, j'ai survécu la COVID, aussi connu que la coronavirus, en 2020, en février 2020. Entre février 2020 et mars 2020, je l'ai eu la COVID. Fait que je l'ai survécu moi-même. J'étais vraiment malade, je pensais que c'était mon dernier chapitre, je pensais que j'allais mourir. Là. C'était comme la mort, la pestilence, puis la maladie. Et bien sûr, en survivant à la COVID, ici le 22 mai, je vous mets sa table avec des milliards de bijoux, des châteaux et des câlins, la théorie de la refusion de la dette. Voilà, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Je vous l'explique. Puis pourquoi je dis que c'est la seule solution? C'est pas nécessairement la seule solution, mais quelque chose qui ressemble fondamentalement et en principe ma solution, ma théorie est la solution. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Dedans, ma TRD est intégrée la théorie d'intégration monétaire. La théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est la... Hey, j'aime ça les corbeaux noirs. Puis, bien sûr, les éperviers blancs et noirs avec la tête rouge. Une bonne combinaison, noir, blanc et rouge. Puis les éperviers, bien sûr, avec... Les éperviers, ben, c'est mon animal, l'épervier. Ben, les corbeaux aussi, je peux dire. Et je l'aime bien, les corbeaux. Ils me regardent. Ils disent, ben, les corbeaux, viens me donner des bisous. Ben, c'est ça. Des fois, j'ai des flashs ici sur la montagne de réincarnation. J'étais prêtresse de la déesse dans l'ancien Rome, ancienne Égypte. J'ai fait partie des légions de Rome, puis en Babylone, puis bien sûr ici, j'étais né proche de l'île, ben proche de la montagne, là, pas loin. Homme-femme, des fois femme-homme, maintenant vous avez 50-50. Aspirant artiste, androgène. Et voilà, messieurs, madame, vous mettez à table la théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie, refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, pour qu'on en sorte, bien sûr, de qu'on est rendu en ce moment. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, toute la dette publique-privée. On va en mettre ensemble toute la dette publique-privée. Toute la dette publique-privée, on va la mettre ensemble. De côte à côte, incluant mon 10 000 à la Banque Royale. Je n'ai pas de carte de crédit. Moi-même, personnellement, j'ai une ligne de crédit de 10 000 de dette. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée. Toute cette dette-là, on va convertir dans la devise des États-Unis parce que ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, il faut que ça soit implémenté Canada et États-Unis ensemble. Puis on est dans la même situation, public et privé, puis je demande à mon oncle Carney, qu'est-ce qu'on va couper dans le budget parce que l'intérêt, ça a tellement augmenté à cause de la coronavirus qu'on n'a pas le choix de couper dans le budget. Quoi, la police, on va couper les prisons, ben la GRC, Gendarmerie Royale, la GRC, on va couper quoi, la santé? Dans la santé, on va couper la défense nationale. Et vous comprenez, à cause de l'intérêt, c'est le même principe financier que ça s'applique pour un individu. Si l'individu, là, son intérêt plus que double en 3 ans seulement, sans que le salaire double, notre économie du Canada n'a pas doublé, loin de là. Fait que on est en veille, peut-être aujourd'hui, ça commence, ou demain, ou dans les jours, semaines à venir, un effondrement des finances publiques. Là. Sur l'horizon, ben, c'est un paradoxe. La TRD, c'est la solution. Ou quelque chose qui ressemble fondamentalement à la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette, publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, votre 10 000, de côte à côte, d'océan à océan, bien sûr. On va faire toute la dette publique-privée, bien sûr. On va la mettre ensemble. Et on va faire, bien sûr, de ce point de vue, bien sûr, où qu'on est rendu à faire toute la dette, TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, faire la conversion de la devise des États-Unis. Toute cette dette-là, on va mettre ensemble, bien sûr, avec la dette des États-Unis publique ensemble. Toute cette dette-là, on va mettre ensemble. Cet argent-là, on va faire la création d'une nouvelle banque. Puis on va faire la création d'une nouvelle banque ainsi que d'une nouvelle monnaie qui sera basée sur la valeur des dollars des États-Unis. Là, UI. U point unité, point échange ou point universel. UI. U point unité, point échange universel. U point unité, point échange ou point universel. L'unité d'échange universel, on va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10%. Ça peut pas être plus que 10, ça pourrait être 3.33, 6.1, 9.3, 7.18, 4.18, 6.1, 9.3, que ça soit en bas de 10. par principe. Avec cet argent-là, on va rebâtir l'infrastructure du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, les ponts, les aqueducs, bâtir plus de centrales Hydro-Québec, on va financer les gens à l'entraînement physique, on va construire les 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire à travers l'Amérique du Nord. 44 basés, inspirés par le village souterrain de Montréal ainsi que la montagne Cheyenne. On va financer les gens au tourisme parce que moi, ça fait du bien quand j'ai traversé le Canada en 2017. Cet événement, ça m'a changé ma vie. Depuis cet événement-là, j'ai établi un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec. Vous êtes ma famille, des fois dysfonctionnel un peu, mais avec le Canada aussi. Fait que cet événement, ça m'a vraiment changé ma vie. J'ai traversé le Canada, j'ai eu comme un réveil, puis ça m'a fait sortir de ma dépression, puis j'étais suicidaire en dépression. Malheureusement, chez les Aspi, il y a un vraiment taux élevé du chômage sans emploi chez les Aspergers, encore de ce malcompréhension, ainsi que le taux de suicide et de dépression est plus élevé, bien plus élevé que la plupart des gens. Fait que c'est quelque chose que moi j'ai vécu moi-même. Puis en traversant le Canada, j'ai eu comme un réveil, puis je commençais à m'entraîner, j'ai créé mon propre système d'entraînement physique, mais encore une fois, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est la solution. On va prendre toute la dette, public-privé, on va faire la TRD, faire la création de l'unité d'échange universelle. On va faire beaucoup de bien avec l'implémentation de la TRD et la création de l'unité d'échange universelle. On va bâtir plus de centrales d'Hydro-Québec aussi. Et prêtez allégeance Légion, soutenez mon rêve qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse. Prêtez allégeance Légion, vous êtes des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Maintenant, c'est le temps pour les cadences. Et c'est le temps pour les cadences. It's time for the cadence. Et voilà. Et des pompes, some push-ups. For that rock and roll, it's time to get it on the go. Give me some of those cadence. Let's go, Dragonomic cadence, where we at? Gonna put it here and get ready. Ready for the cadence, get go, Dragonomic. Creative freestyle mode, we're gonna drop down, do some push-ups. For the cadence, property of the Dragon Army, pledge your legions, Rainbow Dragon, aka greatest cuckold in the universe. Limdic declare General Dragon. Get that H-A-W-K, hawk. Rock and roll for the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, truckers, firefighters, plumbers, and the electricians. Get ready, we're gonna drop down. Dragon Army. Let's go for the butchers, for the bakers. Cadence, property of the Dragon Army, creative freestyle mode, 22nd of May 2025. And the second home, my second home, Mount Royal. Headquarters right here, the Dancing Goddess in the Dragon Kingdom. Pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. We're gonna drop down and we're gonna rock and roll. Let's go. Give me some push-ups. 3. For the butchers, for the bakers, rock and roll. On the steel toes or on the sandals that we go. For the plumbers, electricians, firefighters, nurses, doctors. For the 63. 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. For the 63. How we go and say hello. How we go and say hello. That's why we got a show. Hey, let's go, ready to roll. Give me some of those push-ups. Train conductors got a kiss. Hey, I love the snakes when they hiss. I love the snakes when they hiss. Gotta get it for the bliss. Let's go. Push-ups as we go. On the march, on the steel toes. On the march on the steel toes up. As we go, they say hello. For the plumbers, gotta get it for the east and west, the north and south. Gotta get it for the east and west and south. Gotta get it for the east and west and south. Gotta get it for the sun and for the sunshine. Hey, it's coming out with the thunder clouds in my eyes. Let's go, get ready, more push-ups. Drop down for the nurses. Push-ups for the doctors, plumbers, electricians, firefighters. Daycare workers changing diapers. Truckers, train conductors. Plumbers and the electricians. Yeah. Hein?
Oui, continuez.
Ben, j'allais continuer de toute manière. Merci pour la permission.
Très beau,
Fais
hein?
attention, ma chère, parce qu'il y a des branches qui tombent d'en haut. Hein.
Ah oui, ok.
Le plus de temps tu passes ici, sois prudente parce que je viens d'en voir un couple qui sont tombés tantôt. Salut, beau, pareil à toi. My auntie there. Auntie. I gotta tell, what I said in French is be careful because of the branches, you know? Be careful because of the branches, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And that's my auntie, you know, and me, weirdo Aspie here, doing the cadence, but Dragon Army, we gotta fight for my French Canadian Quebecer family also, you know, for the 63. For the 63 includes Quebec. 63, baby. Includes Quebec, man. 10 plus 50 plus 3. We got that now 51st, but we got 13 like the original, so 13 plus 50, baby. We got 63, you know. Gotta get it on the go, you know, so that's how we gotta go. Oh yeah, that's what we gotta get. Yeah. That's how we gotta do it. That's how we gotta rock and roll with that, and here we go. Cadence. Woo. Dragon Army special cadence, baby. Now we're gonna go down. Up and down we go. Dragon Army in steel toes. Push-ups and the hawks. Gotta give it as the thought. Gotta give it all a lot. For the left and for the right. Gotta give it opposite. Gotta be careful, the branches fall sometimes. Just look up sometimes and be safe out there, eh? Bye bye. You're welcome. You're welcome. Gotta look out for my cousin, man. Cousins, and part of the 63 all who come to join us in the kingdom for the 63, you know. For the 63. For the 63, you know. For the 63, you know. Part of my aunties and cousins here, my family, you know, and gotta love, man. I gotta watch out for them because, you know, the branches, see that branch fell, so you gotta be prudent, see. The more you stay here in the forest, the more at risk you are. Look, branch, I said it, hey? It's not that big, but it falls. That one's big. See, that one's huge. This one fell. This one was probably tossed over. See, it fell. See there, got there, torn off, man. Torn off from above. So it's no joke. And if a wind starts, and I saw several people going, and just be prudent. Just look up if you hear cracks, and the faster you go, the less time you spend. The faster you go, the best. It's the principle of mathematics, see? Like velocity, just like at the beginning of the video when I was discussing the crossing the street prudently. So it is here in the wilderness with the possible branches. So liberty, security, and that is compostable, because I know that one I bought a few months ago when I had some change to afford it. But see, look at this branch. This branch got cracked. These branches are smaller. Right, these branches, but even this, if it falls from above and you're small, or falls on your dog or on you, you can injure. But this one's huge. So that one's cracked. So we gotta be extra prudent, because see, that branch is sticking on nothing there. That one fell and it's stuck there. And we got branches that are stuck, so when the wind comes, it blows out. Back to the cadence. Probably to the Dragonomic cadence. Gotta, for the lovers also. Gotta march and gotta sing. For the flora and the fauna. Hey, we got a little bit of loving. Trauma. Hey, let's go for the cadence Dragonomic, probably the Dragonomic cadence freestyle mode. Rainbow Dragon, aka called If I Ask Who I Am, sir. If I put one finger, you say you're a Rainbow Dragon. If I put two fingers, greatest cuckold in the universe. If I put three fingers, you're a Rainbow Dragon, aka greatest cuckold in the universe, aka greatest cuckold and greatest slim dicklet. If I put one finger, is Rainbow Dragon, founder of the Dragon Army. Who am I? See that one? See, this one has to be recycled, This is no good. This damages flora, fauna. We got bunnies, rabbits, and all sorts of creatures. I don't mind anybody smoking, drinking, but try to live. Don't do it at all. Don't leave any pollution here. Cadence, back to cadence. As we go on the steel toes. For the plumbers and the butchers and the bakers and the nurses and the doctors, firefighters and the plumbers, train conductors. For the cadence gotta be. There is you and me. Let's go for the 63. Let's go for the 63. For you, for us, and for me. Let's go for the 63. For you, for us, and for me. Let's go for the 63. For you, for us, and for me. For the joggers on the fitness. For the fitness, that's a witness. Let's go for the towns and cities. Please do not do N.A.C.W.P graffitis. Let's go for the town and cities. Let's go for the town and cities. Oh, see, here, this one goes there. See, recycling. You can put it there. Not in that. It goes in there because it's recycling. So that's where it goes. So you don't mix them, because otherwise we're not doing it properly. It takes the individual again for the environment. Let's go for the 63. For the love and for the doers. For the butchers and the bakers. Gotta kiss it, that's some Lakers. Bakers, plumbers, nurses, doctors. Bakers, plumbers, nurses, doctors. Electricians and the bakers. And the nurses and the doctors. Plumbers and the train conductors. Gotta do ready to be. And this is the Hawk Island, that's my city. That's the city of the hawk. Montreal, you know the clock. On the spark and on the docks. Train conductors, dog workers. Giving me some warehouse workers. Gotta do it for the doers. Bakers, electricians, plumbers. Nurses and those changing diapers. In the daycares, daycare workers changing diapers. And you know we gotta be for the flavor that you see. Eastern, western, north and south. Eastern, western, north and south. Gotta scream it, that's about. Left and left and loud. So you see on that B. And you cheer dragon seas. Some of my dragons are black. Some of my dragons are white. Some of my dragons are rainbow. Some of my dragons are dragonesses. Some of my dragons are white black. Some of my dragons are dragonesses. Some of my dragons are black white. Some of my dragons are white black. Some of my dragons are dragonesses. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Montreal to San Francisco. 4-63, the Dragon Disco. Montreal to San Francisco. Montreal to San Francisco. Montreal to San Francisco. Montreal, you know we disco. Gotta give it for the left. Gotta do it for the right. Left and right and butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors. Firefighters, electricians. Plumbers, nurses, doctors go. On the road and on the coast. Truckers on the road. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Left and right, no mean potion. Dragging on me, coast to coast. Gotta sing a little bit for the lovers. Lovers, electricians, bakers. Plumbers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, yeah. Gotta sing and gotta do. Gotta you and gotta me. Gotta us and gotta be. Left and right you see. Left and right the melody. Plumbers, doctors, nurses, firefighters. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. 40 SSD, we rock and roll. 40 SSD. Oh, Montreal to San Francisco, 4-63. 4-63, we SSD. We SSD, 4-63. Security, service, and defense. Security, service, and defense. Security, service, and defense. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We cannot be bought, we cannot be bribed. We're the Dragon Army. We cannot be bought, we cannot be bribed. We're the Dragon Army. We cannot be bought, we cannot be bribed. We're the Dragon Army. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We don't need no magic potion. Hey, let's go for the truckers on the road. Firefighters, butchers, bakers. Hey, those construction workers on the cranes. The mountains, valleys feel the pain. Mountains, valleys, lakes, and rivers. Mountains, valleys, lakes, and rivers. The mountains, the valleys, the lakes, and the rivers. Dragging on me for the 63. Dragging on me for the 63. Dragging on me for the 63. Gotta give it for the skies. Prudent, and you know, in the wilderness. For the wilderness we go. For the docks ready to roll. Warehouse workers, construction, plumbers, electricians, and the bakers. Some of my dragons are black and white and rainbow. Pledge your allegiance as we go.